This is the main character. His name is Kim Isaac. He is at the doctor's, who tells Isaac that he has an incurable disease. Isaac can't believe that the doctor says he only has 6 months to live. Heartbroken, Isaac wanders aimlessly, thinking about the unfairness of life and how he worked hard, decided to settle down. But now he must die young. Not noticing anyone around him, Isaac collides with a passerby without even realizing it. Behind Isaac's back, passers-by begin to whisper, calling him crazy, but he does not hear them. Still unable to comprehend the diagnosis, his face expressing despair. Not knowing where he is, Isaac steps out onto the road at a red light. A random passerby saves him from the accident by pushing Isaac out of the way. Without even looking back at the person who saved him, Isaac simply falls to all fours on the sidewalk, a piece of paper falling out of his pocket. Isaac is angry and shaking with rage, continuing to curse fate. His gaze falls on the dropped piece of paper. It turns out to be a lottery ticket, and Isaac becomes even more upset that he learned the news of his illness on the day he won the lottery. Still on all fours on the sidewalk, Isaac leans closer to the lottery ticket, shaking and thinking only about how he wants to live, how he wants to be happy. With his tear-stained face raised to the sky, kneeling and clutching a lottery ticket in his hand, Isaac begs the higher powers not to let him die. Isaac's new body turns out to be a skeleton, the undead he definitely didn't want to become. Skeleton Isaac is in the middle of a battle with monsters, while contemplating how much he dislikes his new body. Various monsters pursue the skeleton, wanting to destroy it, but Isaac easily deals with all the monsters with one swing of his sword. Isaac noticed the noise and approaching danger, turning to face his new enemy. It turns out to be a huge, scary monster that is running furiously towards Isaac. Without a trace of fear, Isaac takes the fight, attacking the massive monster in return. Wanting to end it all quickly, the skeleton Isaac deals the decisive blow to the main monster with a huge flaming sword. The sword glows with magic, helping to defeat the enemy. The main monster is defeated and beheaded. The undead greet Isaac as he drags the giant head of a defeated enemy. After reincarnation, Isaac became the lowest ranked demon, a skeleton, but was able to evolve into a lich, the king of the undead. Skeleton Isaac is happy that he has become the demon king, although he is upset that he is now bald. The demons praise their king, misspelling his name and calling him Isaac. The skeleton gets cutely angry, once again reminding the undead that his name is Kim Isaac. Isaac no longer pays attention to the demons. He's happy that now, having defeated the main monster, he will be able to receive payment for this. As a reward, Isaac wants to become human again. The demon's head rolls across the floor of the heavenly palace. All the gods present are in shock, their faces expressing fear and disgust. The skeleton Isaac stands before the gods in the divine realm, with the severed head of the demon he defeated next to him. Isaac informs the gods that he has gotten rid of all who were against them, and asks if their agreement is still in effect. Isaac stands before the gods. They are surprised that he defeated everyone. The gods thought that it would take him 500 years. Isaac hears the gods whispering among themselves that all the high-ranking nobles who agreed to work with him without pay have joined him. Isaac turns to the gods and asks why they continue to talk empty talk, because they promised to make him human if he defeated everyone. And he did it. One of the gods, smiling sweetly, asks the skeleton Isaac if he can do one more thing. Isaac is furious that instead of fulfilling their promise to make him human, the gods are simply trying to make him their slave. Realizing that the gods have forced him to work even though they don't know how to make him human, Isaac becomes enraged and unleashes his demonic power. The gods are frightened and whisper among themselves, realizing that Isaac has figured out their trick. Skeleton Isaac calls upon more of his magical powers, wishing to destroy the gods who deceived him. The gods, in fear, ask Isaac for more time and try to bargain with him, imposing more work. But Isaac does not want to listen to the gods. He wants to kill them, turning them all into skeletons. Isaac's magic is gaining strength. Lightning is flashing everywhere. Suddenly, everything stops. The magic dies down and the skeleton stands there, unable to move, wanting to know what happened. One of the gods, smiling, tells the skeleton that the one whose name he wrote will not be able to move. Gathered together, the gods tell Isaac about their secret technique called destruction eradication, and that this technique is supposed to seal away disasters like Isaac. The gods inform the skeleton that he will be turned into a bug for attempting to attack them, to which Isaac replies that it would be better to be turned into a fluffy caterpillar. God wrote Isaac's name on a beetle and laughs that the skeleton is so obsessed with hair. Suddenly, the beetle in God's hand, which has Isaac's name written on it, begins to glow with a bright light. The exact same light comes from inside the skeleton, and the hero laughs at the gods, telling them that he would rather kill himself than become a beetle. The gods rush towards Isaac, trying to stop him, but an explosion occurs. After the explosion, the gods try to see what happened. Covering their faces from the bright light, they cannot believe that the skeleton is so crazy that he committed suicide. But the two gods in tattered clothes discover a bug on the floor, rejoicing that the ritual worked in time and Isaac turned into a bug. One of the gods looks at the trembling bug, saying that the demon king's soul is sealed. The gods are reassured, as the destruction of the demon king should restore their strength. The heavenly palace is partially destroyed, and some gods say that it is too early to relax, because it is unknown when the next catastrophe will come. The gods decide to create the perfect vessel of a saint in the human world to kill all the demons. While picking up the beetle that Isaac has turned into from the floor, the gods talk about choosing a soul to place in the body of a saint. The fair-haired god, holding the beetle, rejoices that the demon king will be locked inside it for eternity. In the next frame, we see the world through the eyes of the hero, who at first thinks that he has become a bug, but suddenly realizes that he has hands. He is surprised to find himself in a human body and does not understand how the gods who hated him still made him human. As the baby examines his hands, wondering if perhaps the ritual went wrong, a voice calls him, calling him holy. The hero understands that they are addressing him and sees servants in the room. The servants smile at the baby and ask why he woke up when he could have slept longer. Isaac doesn't understand who these people are, nannies or someone else. He's still surprised that he became human. The sweet smiles on the servants' faces suddenly turn sinister as they tell the baby that they are upset that he woke up. Holding a bottle of suspicious liquid in their hands, the servants say that the saint must fall asleep again, this time forever. The baby is frightened, and the shadow of an approaching servant falls across his face. The child starts screaming because Isaac just died and was reborn and he doesn't want to be killed again. The man looms over Isaac with a malicious grin, holding a bottle. But when you try to give the bottle to the baby, he turns away, comically pursing his lips. The hand with the bottle approaches the baby's face again, but he again dodges, pursing his lips. The baby comically puts his palm forward as if to say, "No thank you," preventing the servant from feeding him poison. The male servant is in shock. The girl is confused. They cannot understand why the baby is not eating. Isaac turned on his side and pretends to be asleep and thinks to himself that having finally become a man, he would never eat something so suspicious. While pondering how he had managed to become human in the first place, little Isaac suddenly had an epiphany. The servant named him Isaac, and the baby turns to the nannies, still trying to purse his lips. He remembers how the demons called him Isaac when he was the Skeleton King. The hero reflects that his name Isaac has an alternative pronunciation of Isaac, and guesses that God used this version of the name when sealing him. In confirmation of the hero's thoughts, we see a beetle named Isaac. The kid is happy that, thanks to a spelling error in his name, not only was he not sealed, but he was also reincarnated into a person with the same name. Little Isaac begins to laugh maliciously at the gods, calling them careless for failing to seal him. And at that moment, while the baby has relaxed, forgotten himself, and opened his mouth, the servant manages to push the bottle into his mouth. Isaac is angry, but he can't escape while the servants force-feed him, wondering why the child is so strong. As Isaac tastes the liquid from the bottle, he realizes that it is vegetable juice and it tastes simply disgusting. The baby feels something sinister entering his body, and his eyes begin to close. The servants stand over the baby with sinister smiles on their faces, but Isaac's eyes are blurry. We are introduced to the Central Eastern Temple of the Holy Empire of Helen. A gray-haired man walks along the corridors of the temple. From his clothes, it is clear that he is one of the temple's servants. The man smiles sarcastically, but all he can think about is how to finish off the baby as quickly as possible. On the way, the priest meets a serious man. His name is Alexander Kittelif Hela, and he is the emperor of the Holy Empire of Helen. The gray-haired temple servant and his companions bow to the emperor, greeting him. But the emperor is not happy about the meeting. He asks what business the bishop might have in this place. The bishop reports that Joshua's family has come to greet the candidate for sainthood, for the Holy See cannot fail to care for a saint. The emperor, smiling, says that he understands what this is about, Because if, after the transfer of the Holy See, another accident occurs, it will be unfortunate. There is a forced smile on the bishop's face, although the emperor's words make it gloomy, but the old man pretends not to understand what the emperor is talking about. Suddenly, a loud child's cry is heard down the corridor, and the bishop and the emperor, as well as the rest of their retinue, turn towards the sound. Alexander's face is alarmed. And while the emperor is not looking, the bishop grins maliciously, hearing the cries of the servants who are calling the young master, meaning Isaac. Alexander runs towards the sound as fast as he can, bursting into the baby's room, loudly asking where the child is. The maid continues to repeat the words about the young master and looks at the emperor, who suddenly burst in with eyes wide with surprise. Alexander still feels like something happened. He's worried and afraid to hear the answer. But instead of terrible news, the maid says that the young master is terribly sweet, looks like an angel, and he eats very well, and Isaac himself is lying in bed and laughing, touching his tummy. The bishop's face twists in horror when he hears from the servants that Isaac has already eaten 15 bottles of vegetable juice. The old man thinks that this is impossible. The bishop sees a huge pile of empty bottles and cannot understand how the baby is still alive after drinking so much. The old man gets angry and a dark aura appears around him, because he knows that this is not just juice. We are shown what happened a few minutes earlier, when Isaac's eyes began to close. Isaac remembered the servants' gloating smiles as they fed him juice, a dark aura spreading around them. But after finishing his juice, Isaac's eyes widen again, realizing that the bottle was laced with the so-called holy curse. We are told that the holy curse is a poison that destroys the holy power, although it does not work immediately. But if you drink a lot, you can die. But Isaac understands that he can turn the sacred curse into demon mana, because for someone like him, the king of the undead, this is a blessing. So the baby actively sucks on the bottle of poison. In his mind, Isaac still thinks of himself as the skeleton king, and he can't stop being glad that people gave him something he can turn into mana. Isaac is simply delighted and intends to eat his fill of this magical children's drink. Isaac continues to loudly demand another bottle of poison, and the servants cannot calm him down, surprised that he wants more. The male servant, with a forced smile, gives the child another bottle, saying that they will be happier the more Isaac drinks, because the vegetable juice will not work immediately. Isaac is completely satisfied, sucking out another portion of juice, mentally praising the one who came up with the idea with the poison. The baby concentrates to leave the world of consciousness for the world of the subconscious, and he succeeds. Mentally, he swims in the sea. In his subconscious, Isaac swims deeper and deeper. He needs to find the deepest point, which is called the world of origin. At this point, the manicore is formed and the baby finds it. Isaac is happy that he is now safe, so he dances funny near the core. Then he focuses on magic. Isaac needs to gather all his mana into his mana core. He needs this to cast spells in the future. But suddenly a magical explosion occurs, and everything around is filled with white light. Isaac peers into the light through narrowed eyes. He doesn't understand why the glow is white when the mana core is usually three-colored. He doesn't understand what kind of energy it is or where it comes from, because he hasn't even collected enough mana. Isaac smirks, pleased that the magic has exceeded his expectations. As the baby reaches for the mana core, he reflects that his new body has been blessed with many things. Smiling sincerely, Isaac reaches for the magic, thinking that if he works on himself, with his new abilities he can become a much bigger monster than ever before. In the magical light, Isaac sees his name and, like in a computer game, a button appears saying survive, and the kid presses it. Isaac remembers himself in his past life, when he was still human, and how desperately he wanted to survive. So much so that this desire was imprinted deep in his soul. Isaac then remembers his life as a skeleton, and that it was his desire to survive that led him to develop many skills in order to become the king of the undead. And now, having been reborn in a new body, in another world, Isaac has inherited all of his skills, which he carefully developed, which he is very happy about. The servants leaned over the baby with curiosity, thinking that he had finally died. The girl invited the man to check it out. But Isaac immediately raises his index finger, and the servant sobs from the realization that the baby is still alive. Due to his age, unable to speak in his new body, Isaac makes an incomprehensible sound, continuing to point his finger up, but the servants do not understand what he wants. Isaac coos happily again, meaning he wants another bottle and a stronger one. Now the events return to the present time, where the emperor ran into the baby's room and calmed down, realizing that nothing had happened to the child. But not everyone is satisfied with the happy outcome. The bishop does not understand what is happening and why the baby is staring at him. Isaac, meanwhile, is looking through the bars of his crib, just wondering if he's eaten too much. To avoid suspicion, Isaac decides to act like a normal baby and simply smiles sweetly at everyone present. In response to the baby's smile, the bishop only grimaces, thinking that the child is constipated. Isaac's laughter looks sinister in the old man's eyes, because the dose of poison in the juice was enough for the child to die, choking on blood. But instead, he rejoices. The bishop became angry, thinking that the baby was laughing at him. Next, we are shown the memories of the bishop a few days before the present moment. Then he was in the central papacy. A tall man with long blonde hair holds a glass of wine and says that the one who becomes a saint will rule the Holy Empire. And now everyone declared that their child is a saint, even the lower houses. The bishop bows before the man, promising with a forced smile that all the other candidates for sainthood will be taken care of, to which the long-haired man agrees with a smile. But at the man's next words, the old man shudders and begins to sweat. With an evil look, the long-haired man says that he has heard unpleasant rumors that there is a candidate for sainthood from the house of Joshua. The old man is afraid of his boss, but still objects to him that Joshua is the emperor's right hand and they can't do anything with them. A glass, which his superior had previously held in his hands, flies to the bishop's feet. The wine spreads out in a stain that looks like blood, and the long-haired man says that the child should be dead by the time the bishop arrives there. Turning to face the bishop, the man says that the old man only needs to confirm the presence of the corpse, because he has already decided everything. The man's gaze becomes greedy. His face distorts from a crooked smile, and he says that the next saint will definitely be a child from the house of Barrett. And then we are introduced to the long-haired man as the patriarch of the house of Barrett and a cardinal. His name is Hirej Barrett. We return to the present, where the bishop stands by the baby's crib in complete shock, because the cardinal told him that the child would be dead. The old man gets more and more angry because the baby is alive, although this is impossible. The emperor comes closer to Isaac's crib, looking at his shining locks of hair, the same color as the founder of the Holy Empire, asking the bishop if he is speaking correctly. The bishop is confused and frightened, asking in response how the emperor can say such things. Isaac looks back at the man who approached him, realizing that he was the emperor. A pleased Alexander says he considers Isaac closer to God than the current pope, as expected from the latest candidate for sainthood. Hearing the emperor's words, Isaac's jaw drops in shock, finally realizing that he is a candidate for sainthood. The bishop realizes that the emperor is beginning to favor Isaac and intends to stop it. The bishop asks the emperor for permission to examine the child, but Alexander does not understand why. The old man says that something is wrong. The baby could not have drunk all that juice. But the emperor wonders what could be wrong with the food of a candidate for sainthood, but the bishop continues to insist. At this time, Isaac lies and ponders how it could happen that he, the king of demons, became a candidate for sainthood. The baby burps, appearing as a ball of dark energy, and Isaac thinks to himself that it is undigested mana. Isaac covers his mouth with his hand, worried that someone might notice, and the bishop is standing right there, leaning over his crib. The kid is worried what will happen if the old man really noticed the dark mana. The bishop leans closer to Isaac, and he, eyes wide with fear, turns to the old man. Confirming Isaac's worst fears, the bishop tells the emperor that he just sensed dark mana emanating from the child. Looking closely at the baby, the old man smiles slyly, saying that this is very suspicious. Isaac, clutching the sheets, scolds the old man, complaining that he did notice. The bishop tells the emperor that the child may be a false candidate carrying dark mana, so they need to urgently consult with the inquisitor, to which the emperor is indignant. How could the old man say such a thing about a candidate for sainthood? The bishop asks Alexander not to worry, and proudly reports that the pope has already set his sights on a candidate for sainthood from the house of Barrett. The emperor thinks about how shameless it is to choose a child from his own house as a saint, and little Isaac realizes why they wanted to kill him. The bishop takes the baby in his arms and asks to bring the inquisitor, for which Isaac mentally scolds him. The emperor tries to stop the old man, reminding him that the house of Joshua is a close ally of the royal court, and Alexander strongly recommends that Isaac be considered as a candidate. With his back to the emperor, The bishop replies that he understands everything, but the Pope said that the crown prince's blessing will be given after a decision is made about the saint. Alexander is shocked by the old man's words, realizing where this conversation is leading. The Pope will refuse to bless the crown prince unless the emperor supports the child chosen by the Pope himself. Isaac is angry, calling the entire papacy corrupt scum. The kid, looking towards the emperor, thinks that it will be bad if everyone finds out who Isaac really is. While the bishop tells the emperor with a sly smile that the test can be carried out right now using his own power of exorcism, Isaac happily examines the bottle that he has been holding in his hands all this time. He adjusts his grip on the pacifier, mentally telling himself that he won't allow this. The old man continues to talk about exorcism, saying that if the baby is human, then nothing will happen to him. But if he is a demon, the bishop doesn't have time to finish speaking before he gets hit in the face with a bottle. Because Isaac put mana into this blow, the bishop's mouth began to bleed and his teeth began to loosen. The kid grins slyly as he looks at the old man's missing tooth. At this point, Isaac begins to babble out loud, smiling sweetly. He decides to act like a real baby, but in his thoughts he scolds the old man. The bishop's cheek was swollen and blue, and he could not believe that the blow was ordinary. Isaac continues to be cute while the others notice an unusual light coming from the baby, definitely indicating that the child is a saint. The baby continues to happily swing the bottle again. The old man gets another punch in the face, while Isaac mentally gloats that the bishop won't do anything to him anyway. The next blow hits the bishop on the shoulder, and another blow to the face, in which the bishop feels dark mana. But Alexander and his soldiers, watching what is happening, only rejoice, admiring the bright divine light. But Isaac, pretending to be an innocent baby, calls upon dark mana to make the bottle even harder. A blow from a reinforced bottle causes the old man to fall to his knees, but those around him say the bishop was amazed at the baby's divinity. Isaac himself begins to look closely at the bottle, realizing that every time he uses dark mana, divine mana comes out with it, albeit weak. And Isaac thinks that these are two opposites, so they cannot be used together. But perhaps it is all because of that white mana core. The old man doesn't allow another blow to be struck, intercepting the bottle while Isaac is distracted by thinking about the situation. Rising from his knees, the old man shouts that he is ready to swear by everything that exists that the child is a heretic and that an exorcism must be performed immediately. Mentally calling the bishop a stubborn brat, the little boy reaches for the collar of the old man's clothes, sticking out his tongue in satisfaction. Grabbing a suspicious object wrapped in bandages and hung with gold chains, the kid thinks that he didn't mean to do it, but the old man still has something interesting. Isaac takes out everything that the bishop was hiding, and it turns out to be the hand of a demon. The old man looks at this thing called a totem with horror. It is made from the remains of an exiled high-ranking demon. Such a totem is capable of absorbing the powers of other demons, for example, when being pursued by dark forces. Isaac smiles evilly, holding the bishop's totem in his hands, and the old man cannot understand how the child knew about the hidden totem. Isaac simply throws the totem away from the bishop, and while the old man watches in horror, Isaac mentally promises to show the old man something since he continues to attack. The bandages and chains slide off the dark object, revealing it. Isaac raises his little hand and simply snaps his fingers. A demon appears from the dark totem. Frightening everyone present, they cannot understand why he suddenly appeared. A joyful Isaac mentally suggests to the bishop to deal with this demon. The emperor's guard grabs his sword as the demon grows larger. No one can figure out how the shadow lich appeared. Alexander shouts at the bishop, whose name is Masa Barrett, asking how a demon could appear in the temple. The bishop indignantly replies that, in fact, the child just pulled out the totem, and everyone saw it. But the emperor objects that totems bind dead demons and the baby could not have revived it. Alexander orders everyone present to protect the baby from the demon and the bishop, and the knights immediately rush to carry out the order. One of the knights immediately takes the baby from the bishop's hands while he stands in shock. Isaac smiles sarcastically, mentally telling himself that this is what he deserves. The idiot. At this time, the knights surrounded the shadow lich, pointing their weapons at him. But the demon, seeing the baby, senses divine power from him and wants to kill the saint, so he becomes furious. Isaac is confused as he realizes that things are not going the way he wanted. The shadow lich rushes straight toward the child, screaming and threatening. The knights are ready to protect the baby with all their might. Isaac, sitting in the arms of one of the knights, cannot understand what happened to the demon and why he wants to kill him. since it was he who revived this lich. Reassuring himself, Isaac thinks that he has the holy knights on his side and they will definitely protect him. But at that very moment, one of the knights falls, defeated by the lich. Isaac, looking at the fallen warrior, asks himself if they are really holy knights. The shadow lich rushes towards the child, repeating that the saint must be killed and the imprisoned king saved. The knight holding the baby is frightened and hugs him close, but Isaac is thinking at that moment that he must defeat the demon first. The demon reaches out to the baby, but he is completely calm. Unlike the knight, Isaac is just thinking about why so many people in this life want to kill him. With an unperturbed look, the kid mentally tells the demon that he saved him, but the demon tries to kill him, which means that Isaac can use dark mana. In such chaos, no one will notice it anyway. Isaac uses magic, releasing his Skeleton King aura to stop the lich. The demon immediately recognizes his master and is happy to meet him. Unexpectedly for everyone, and first of all for Isaac himself, his hands begin to glow with a bright white light. The glow becomes brighter and brighter, surprising everyone around. Alexander looks at the blinding glow in shock. The light scares the demon away, threatening to destroy him. But the demon does not want this. In order not to disappear after being reborn again, the demon tries to escape, but the knights do not want to let him go. Many gather around the baby, claiming that what Isaac did was holy power, and with its help he defeated the greater demon. The baby looks at his hands and realizes that they are truly oozing holy power. Isaac wants to figure out where his holy power comes from, continuing to look at his hands, but the light is already disappearing. Feeling himself, the baby realizes that his own body has transformed dark mana into holy power. Isaac starts to get angry because he wants to accumulate dark mana. There is already little of it in the Empire. At this time, the bishop tries to escape from the knight's grip, calling them fools. The bishop shouts that the child is a heretic who uses the power of demons. And where has it ever been seen that a demon would set foot in the Holy Empire? He asks the emperor for permission to prove it. But the emperor does not allow the bishop to do anything, condemning him for accusing an innocent child of heresy, as well as for the presence of a demon in the presence of the royal holy knights. With a threatening look, Alexander tells the old man that even if he is a man from the Holy See, his actions will not turn out well for him. The bishop feels uneasy because of the emperor's words, and he is also angry because the seeds of doubt have already been sown in the emperor's mind. And soon he will learn about the spy, and this will cast a shadow on the Holy Throne, as well as on the Barrett family. So the bishop decides to use magic, unnoticed by the knights, to save his family, even if it costs him his life. The bishop summons the sacred spirit of the beast, intending to at least kill the candidate for sainthood since he is no longer trusted. The bishop's sacred beast lunges towards the baby. Isaac continues to remain calm, realizing that the old man has shown his true nature. But the baby is not afraid of the beast, considering this attack a very weak attack. When the beast is so close that its open mouth is already reflected in the baby's eyes, Isaac realizes that he has run out of mana. The beast's attack is interrupted by a sudden attack from the entrance, which surprises the baby. A young man with silver hair entered the room and menacingly asked who dared to lay hands on the child Joshua. All the soldiers present began to whisper that this was the pious Azure, the Knights of Joshua. The seventh son of the Joshua family, Reli Joshua, walked in front of everyone. Pointing his finger at the old man, Reli orders the bishop to be arrested immediately. While the bishop resists Joshua's knights, calling them dogs, Isaac wonders where he heard the name Joshua. And while Isaac is remembering, Reli turns to his subordinates and orders them to pay their respects. All the knights of the pious Azure immediately bowed their heads and greeted the son of the house of Joshua. Reli apologizes to Isaac for coming so late, but the kid doesn't pay attention to it. Looking at how dressed up Reli is, better than the Imperial Knights, and one of those same Imperial Knights who is holding Isaac, awkwardly looks away. Reli points to one of the knights and tells Isaac that they have brought him gifts. The knight rises from his knees and reaches into his bosom. The knight takes out the thing he brought, something shines, and Isaac hopes that he will be given gold. But the knight, flashing a happy smile, shows the little boy a figurine of a skeleton king whose head is being cut off. Isaac looks at the gift in shock, and the knights continue to take out the figurines, saying that they still have those where the skeleton king is burned alive, or one where he is torn to pieces. As Joshua's knights twirl figures in front of the child's face, Isaac gets worse. He almost starts to cry, wondering how he will survive in this madhouse. But the knights thought he liked it, and he cried with joy. Isaac smiles nervously, shying away from the figurines of himself in his past life, and those around him only repeat how cute he is. And then Isaac thinks about Joshua's last name again and finally remembers where he knows them from. He remembers the woman who tried to defeat him. She introduced herself as Ho Joshua, the 45th saint. Then there was the man, O Joshua, the 61st saint, and then there was the woman who had not told Isaac her name in the past. Isaac clutches his head from the realization that all those people were from Joshua's family, and he himself is not only a candidate for sainthood, but was also born into a family of saints. His thoughts are interrupted by the bishop's cry, which distracts all the knights. The bishop, who is being held by one of the knights, berates Joshua's family, calling them all heretics, and asks where they got this creature, referring to the child. The old man's eyes turn bloodshot with anger, and he promises to reveal the secret of Joshua's family. The clang of a sword is heard. The bishop continues to tear himself apart, asking how they could have brought this monster in and promising to destroy all Joshua. But his scream is cut off by a swing of the sword, blood spurting from a thin, small cut on the bishop's throat. Riley stands with his sword drawn and sternly says that the old man should be grateful that, by Joshua's grace, his head was not cut off. After what he saw, Isaac thought that Riley could be useful, since he was not afraid to attack the bishop, defending his family, and that perhaps, under certain conditions, he could be persuaded to go against the Holy See. The knights surround the baby, trying to distract him, because, in their opinion, the baby should see and hear only good things. But Isaac calls them fools, considering them useless. The kid looks at the smiling faces of the knights, remembering how strong these guys in blue were. All of Isaac the skeleton's subordinates were afraid of them, and the knights continue to play sweetly with the child, shoving a new figurine of the skeleton king with a removable head under his nose. But Isaac only gets irritated, thinking that these people have nothing sacred. The emperor turns to Riley, saying that he is now in his debt. With a smile, Alexander also asks Riley to share with the family the news that the Imperial family is interested in raising the young master. Riley turns to the emperor and asks if he is joking, while Isaac is glad that the Imperial family is interested in him. The emperor makes his case for why Isaac should remain with the Imperial family, stating that all forces, foreign and domestic, will target the child, and asks if Riley has enough strength to protect him. Riley looks at the emperor silently with a stern gaze. Isaac tries to hear everything the emperor and Riley are saying, and overhears a conversation about how Dad is very disappointed because Isaac has the same hair color as the founder of the Holy Empire, and also that the baby may be hunted by the Demon King. Isaac immediately mentally objects that this is slander, because he is the king of demons. Why would he hunt himself? Riley apologizes to the emperor, but takes the baby, saying that Isaac is one of the Joshua and will be raised with them. Holding Isaac close, Riley confidently states that whether it's Dad or the Demon King, Joshua's family can handle them all, and besides, the former saint, Melissa, would be happy to meet the Demon King. The emperor almost gives in, replying that he is sure that Riley is telling the truth. Riley continues his impassioned speech about the inadmissibility of Melissa's direct descendant being raised in the Imperial family, and Isaac again begins to remember that he knows that name. And when he realizes that we are talking about his last rival before going to the Heavenly Palace, Isaac's mouth opens wide in shock, because that woman was the craziest and most difficult of all. And Isaac realizes that not only was he born a candidate for sainthood in a family of saints, but also a direct descendant of that very Melissa. Isaac has a desperate question about what is wrong with this life. Next, we are told who the saints are, presenting them as if they were some kind of figurines created by the gods in order to resist the Demon King, because the Demon King defeated the gods many times and they decided to take revenge. The gods decided to create saints as the mace of God to punish evil. Saints use attacks imbued with divine light. They are almost equal to gods in attack and defense. They have a very long lifespan. They become stronger over time and are wonderful individuals. However, the Demon King was cruel. He mercilessly killed the saints who entered into battle with him. The story of who the saints are interrupts Isaac's thoughts about how he never killed saints, because that would only make things worse for himself. Because if a saint dies, the holy energy will return to the gods, and then they can create a new saint, even stronger. But the last saint, Melissa, was hellishly strong. Isaac remembers how he almost died because of her, and now she is his ancestor. Riley, with a cute blush of admiration, says that a saint is someone who desires only one thing, and that is victory over the demon king, and such people are born only in the Joshua family. Their mission is to defeat everything that opposes God, which means only they can protect the baby. Alexander listens to Riley in silence, his lips pursed in displeasure. One of the knights adds that Riley is right. Many saints died at the hands of the skeleton king, but Isaac winces, mentally objecting that those saints did not die at the end of the battle. Riley smiles tenderly at the baby and says that even if he is cursed, he has nothing to worry about. They will protect him. But Isaac is angry and, on the contrary, wants to be cursed. While cuddling the baby, Riley happily continues to tell him that they are happy about his birth. And lifting Isaac higher, Riley says that the baby's parents wanted only one thing from him, that he would not grow up like the evil demon king. Isaac's face is awkward and devastated as he mentally apologizes to his unknown parents for ruining their hopes and dreams. The Emperor asks Sir Riley not to jump to conclusions, saying that the Skeleton King was sealed 150 years ago. And Isaac is surprised that so much time has passed, and still does not understand how Melissa can be alive if she was already 50 when they fought last time. Alexander continues that all these years the demons have been growing stronger, and the child could be the perfect chance to strengthen the influence of the Imperial family. And right now, St. Joshua does not exist, because almost a year has passed since the Holy Lady gave birth to Isaac and disappeared with her husband. Isaac is in another shock that even his mother is a saint. Riley argues with the Emperor that even so, the matriarch is still strong and Joshua is capable of protecting the baby. But Isaac continues to think that since his mother is a saint herself, nothing will surprise him anymore. But then the Emperor asks about Melissa. Didn't she go to confront the Demon King, hinting that Melissa won't be able to protect the child now, to which Riley replies that she will return soon, and the matriarch will be glad to see her grandson. Isaac clutches his head, calculating Melissa's age again, realizing that she is over 200 years old, and the Emperor notices that the baby is upset. But Riley says that everything will be fine, although Isaac cannot agree with him, because his sworn enemy is still alive. Isaac panics, thinking that once Melissa finds out, he will definitely be burned at the stake. He was ready to put up with everyone else, but not with Melissa. Thinking that this will help him survive, the baby grabs the Emperor's finger with his tiny hands. Isaac makes an incredibly sweet face and starts babbling, hinting that the Emperor should keep him for himself, and Alexander is only too happy about this. Alexander strokes the baby's head as it continues to cling to his fingers, and says that the child wants to stay with the Imperial family. But Riley does not let go of the baby's legs. Pulling him back, he discontentedly objects that the baby is simply too friendly. The Emperor draws Isaac to himself, promising that the Imperial family will do everything for him, and Joshua only has experience in raising holy girls, but not boys. Riley pulls Isaac back to him, telling him that the child is destined to become a demon slayer, an exorcist, and only Joshua can properly raise him for that mission. Poor Isaac was left hanging between the Emperor and Riley, each of whom was screaming that their family was better, and the kid just wanted them to stop. One of the knights also asked them to stop before they tore the young master apart. Trembling with tension, Isaac purses his lips, determined to join the Imperial family because he doesn't want to die. Isaac looks at the Emperor and sees a glow around him, indicating great vitality and a thirst for life. For Isaac, this means that with the Emperor, he has a better chance of survival. With an even brighter smile, Alexander tells the little boy that he made a wise choice. In the next shot, we see the bishop kneeling in front of the dark figures. He says that he is sure of what he saw. It was dark mana, and he has no doubt that Isaac is a child of a demon. The Pope objects that holy power is given by God and asks the bishop how a demon can possess the power of God. The cardinal draws his sword from its sheath, but the old man continues to insist that he is sure that what he saw was mana. He would not be able to confuse mana and holy power. Without emotion on his face, the Pope informs the bishop that the Holy See has heard his statement. The old man tried to say something else, but the sword cut his throat. The cardinal looked contemptuously at the dead bishop and called him a blasphemer. One of the dark figures in a cloak promises the cardinal to organize an attack, but he says that this is not necessary, because the Emperor will take the child to himself, and in the palace there will be enough chances to solve the problem, and this time they will be convinced of the death of the baby. At this time, Isaac lies relaxed and scratches his ear, thinking that someone is talking about him. In Korea, there is a saying that if your ears itch, someone is remembering you, just like we have hiccups. A carriage drives through the forest, in which Isaac, accompanied by knights, heads to Joshua's family. And the Pope's henchmen, like himself, are surprised by this turn of events. Next comes a flashback where Isaac sits in the Emperor's arms and closes his eyes from the bright light. He sees this light coming from Riley, who agrees with Alexander that Joshua's house is not the best place to raise children, as there are many demon remains and mana cores in that house, especially since Joshua's house is where the skeleton king's remains are kept. Isaac looks at Riley's light and thinks about how great his desire to survive is, since the light is so blinding. And when he hears that the remains of his former body are kept there, he is very surprised that Joshua preserved it. Riley wants to say something in defense of his family, but Isaac grabs onto him, interrupting Riley's speech. An inspired Isaac is immediately ready to go to Joshua's house. Riley loses the thread of the conversation, overwhelmed by the cuteness of the baby. The flashback ends and we now see Isaac riding in a carriage to his former enemies, away from the Imperial palace. But he will be able to get his remains. The kid thinks about how his previous body has been upgraded to the level of gods, and if he can get it back, even the 10th rank will be nothing compared to the power he can get. And for Isaac, the bright light that came from Riley is a big plus. In the carriage, Riley talks to one of the knights, and he asks why the Pope's forces are pursuing the young master, to which Isaac thinks to himself that he is also very surprised by this. Riley replies that it's all about the prophecy, which says that the saint will become the child of the gods, and therefore the next pope. So Barrett tries to choose her child. This information makes Isaac experience another shock. Now we are told that the Pope is the strongest cleric. That is, a priest who is able to use second-rank holy spells. The Pope is not like the other clerics. His power over the others is almost equal to the emperor's. And for many centuries it was the Barrettas family that continued the succession to the papal throne. So now they are going crazy over the possibility of this power being taken away from them. Imagining himself as an adult sitting on the holy throne, Isaac understands why every family wants to produce a saint. The carriage stops and Riley and his knight look around for the cause. Looking out the window, Riley asks the man who was driving the carriage what happened, and he replies that they have already arrived at the duchy, but there are problems. 3 guards stand in the way of the carriage in which the baby is riding, saying that they cannot enter the duchy. Isaac doesn't understand what happened again, and Riley gets out of the carriage to scold the guards, asking them if they can't see Joshua's coat of arms. The guard standing in front begins to show fangs, and with an evil smile he announces that of course the carriage will not be able to go any further. All 3 guards immediately develop claws. Their appearance changes, and they say that they are obliged to wipe from the face of the earth the child who inherited the blood of the saint. The knight guarding the carriage is surprised by the appearance of demons, and Isaac is outraged by what is happening, since he forbade demons to attack human territories and does not understand what the new demon king is doing there. The demon tells the knights that the king has ordered that saints and priests be killed without hesitation. At first, the kid thinks that some madman has ascended to the throne of demons, but then he hears the attacking demons say that they will kill the saint in the name of King Isaac, and then the kid gets angry because he never said such a thing. The demons continue to say that if the knights leave the little one, then King Isaac may well spare them. But then a bluish light of magic hits the middle demon, burning him. The demons panic and call Riley, who used magic, a worthless knight, asking how he dared. Riley replies that if the demons say such words to the exorcist Joshua, it means they do not want an easy death. Continuing his speech, Riley says that in order to protect the entire world, the Knights of Joshua will pursue demons to the very depths of hell to destroy all demonic race. Riley calls the Demon King evil and cannot believe that he used his subordinates to take over. The demons, not intending to forgive the knights for their attacks and insults to their king, rush to attack. The knights respond by preparing to fight and protect the child. The one riding inside the carriage grabs Isaac in his arms. Having asked the young master for forgiveness, the knight runs away with him. Isaac simply watches what is happening, not feeling any fear, but only wondering what is happening and whether someone is pretending to be him. The knight carries Isaac away from the battle into the woods, to a safe place. He puts Isaac under a bush and asks him to wait there. Promising to return soon, the knight casts a magical protective barrier on the baby. Isaac feels the barrier from the inside, realizing how strong it is, that even a high-ranking demon could not break through it, which means it is impenetrable from the inside. And Isaac decides to release his magic, focusing on meditation. He calls upon the one who is made of magic, but has intelligence. Isaac calls him the one who watches, and then a clot of dark magic appears. The dark lump immediately presses itself against the barrier, happy to meet its owner, but Isaac asks it to be quiet so that they don't get caught. The dark lump says that he was afraid that he would never see Isaac's majestic face again, and the baby replies that he too was afraid that he was finished. Isaac greets the lump of magic once more, calling it Whisper, and explains that it is a detection spell, but also has a consciousness. Isaac created it to make his job easier in the past, and then it developed a personality. Whisper congratulates the master on successfully capturing the child's body without an ounce of guilt, and then begins to run around the barrier, cursing the gods who sealed the great master in the body of a baby. But Isaac stops him, sending him to search for enemies. Whisper immediately and unquestioningly follows the order and begins searching within a radius of 100 meters. Whisper discovers the battle between demons and knights, reporting to Isaac that he found 88 enemies and that they are all monsters that will never compare to his master. The kid is shocked by the number of demons, fearing that they decided to start a real war. Isaac doesn't want the territory's security to be strengthened due to this skirmish, because then it will be much more difficult for him to summon subordinates, and he will also have to hurry to find his former body before Joshua's family catches him. So the kid is ready to spend all his mana to deal with the enemies himself. But Whisper does not say that now the number of enemies has become 51, and then 31, and the number of opponents continues to decrease very quickly. Whispers say something is coming when there are only 4 enemies left, and Riley, sensing danger, orders everyone to form a defensive line. The demons look up, happy that their brother has finally arrived. The demon calls the newcomer to kill the saint together. But the new demon himself deals with the remaining enemies, killing them all, which leads to complete confusion of all the knights. Whispers happily report that there are no enemy forces left, and Isaac is surprised but overall pleased. He sees that the Shadow Lich has arrived, the same one that eluded the knights in the Emperor's house when Isaac revived the bishop's totem. The demon screams that anyone who touches his king with their dirty hands will lose their life, and Isaac is shocked by the Lich's words, because he can arouse suspicion in the knights. The Shadow Lich becomes increasingly enraged, thinking that his king was forcibly trapped in the body of a child, so he yells at the knights. The knights stand in a defensive line, ready to fight the Lich, while he tells them not to dare even look at the child with their disgusting eyes, lest he rip them out. However, the knight who cast the barrier on Isaac asks Riley what this demon is saying. The people do not understand the demon's language, so they just stand there in confusion. Isaac smirks, realizing that the Shadow Lich has realized that he is the Demon King and appreciates the demon's desire to follow him, but does not know why he is putting on such a show. The knights rush into battle, wanting to attack the Lich. Sitting in the barrier, Isaac begins to scold the demon so that he does not touch the super-rich monocore, which is his lifeline. The knight notices that the baby is actively waving his arms. This knight asks to wait for Isaac while he quickly settles everything. The Shadow Lich was happy that his master recognized him, but the knight decided that the demon was being hostile and was shouting at Riley to do something. At super speed, the Lich rushes towards the baby. He hurries to Isaac, to his master. Riley and the other knights fear for Isaac, believing that the demon is showing hostility towards the child. The Lich, approaching the master, scolds the knights, believing that it was they who locked the Skeleton King in the body of a baby, so the demon calls the knights vile. But Isaac is only glad that he attracted the demon's attention. Joyfully greeting the Lich, Isaac asks him to destroy the protective barrier, thinking to himself that he does not want his mana core to be banished, and the demon happily carries out Isaac's order. The kid shakes the Lich's hand, praising him for a job well done. But then he tells the demon that he can now rest, and dark magic appears from the baby's hands. And once again, only a hand remains of the demon. Riley and the knights are shocked by what they see. Isaac sits contentedly and calmly, and Riley wonders how it is possible that the baby totemized the demon. The knight, who had previously placed a protective barrier around the baby, beams with joy, calling it a miracle that Isaac totemized the demon on the first try. The knights throw the baby into the air, celebrating the holy spell that only a cardinal or saint can use. But Isaac argues in his mind, stating that it was not a holy spell, he used mana. At this time, Riley reflects on the fact that he does not sense any holy power from the baby, Although the spell was definitely holy, and this is strange. The knight happily tells Riley that he is convinced of the child's holiness and that he was magnificent. But Riley doubts it, looking at the frowning Isaac. Riley watches the knight cradling the baby and thinks that even if the child is not a saint, he is definitely special. But Riley is upset that the child is a boy, because there is some curse of the Demon King. The knight, who holds Isaac in his arms, tells Riley that he, the captain of the Blue, will personally protect the baby, who will become the future of all Joshua. Riley is surprised by the captain's words, but understands what he is talking about. Reaching out his hands to the child, Riley says that he will be the one to raise the name of Joshua. He tells Isaac that they need to go home and his uncle will teach him a lot. The kid is talented and will make an incredible holy knight. The baby smiles at Riley, thinking that he doesn't care anymore as long as he gets his body back. But then Riley adds the phrase that even if Isaac does not live long, he, Riley, will save Isaac, and these words confuse the baby. A joyful Riley continues to tell Isaac that his name will spread across the continent, but the little boy is still thinking about the strange words Riley said earlier. We are shown Joshua's domain. The carriage is finally approaching its destination. Isaac sees luxurious statues, and also a beautiful gazebo. Isaac can't help but be surprised, angry at these Joshuas for their wealth. Isaac calls Joshua a damn bourgeois, recalling how he had to work in hell to feed his hungry children. Whisper adds fuel to the fire by admiring Joshua's house, as it is on a completely different level than the shabby palace of the Demon King, and says that if you sell a couple of gold sculptures, you can buy 10 such palaces, and Isaac gets angry at Whisper for these words. Riley picks up Isaac and tells him that this is Joshua's residence, and that it was here that the exorcism and extermination of all the monsters on the continent began. Riley asks the baby to look out the window and tells him that when he grows up, he will be like those children. And Isaac sees the teenagers training near the Scarecrow. The children begin to beat the Scarecrow, imagining the Skeleton King in his place and wishing him death. Their faces turn sinister and they continue to attack the effigy, wishing more and more curses on the Skeleton King. Riley smiles happily, and Isaac is simply discouraged by this sight, not understanding what they teach children there and worrying whether it is a cult. Isaac tries to calm himself down by thinking that none of this matters because he will infiltrate the Holy Empire, burn the Emperor, and make this place Isaac's empire. But Whisper teases the kid, telling him that it is very petty to hold a grudge against children playing. But Isaac shuts up the assistant, ordering him to search the area. Whisper turns on his abilities and finds Isaac a building with many glowing balls. Isaac looks out the window with interest, realizing that these are all mana cores, and Whisper says that this is the first time he has seen so many of them in one place, because this means that Joshua was killed by a lot of demons. The carriage arrives at the place, and Riley, getting out of the carriage with Isaac, asks the servants to tidy up his room so that the baby can live with him, but the servants begin to mumble awkwardly. The servant apologizes to Riley that he cannot do as he wishes, because they were ordered to escort Isaac to the annex, and Riley asks why. The servant explains that the fifth son of this house has forbidden Isaac to be brought into the main building. Riley is outraged that his brother wants to send the baby to a cursed place so that the child will meet his end there, and Isaac looks at everything with suspicion and thinks that not everything is smooth in this family. Riley says that his brother is just being a fool, and Isaac mentally picks up on his words, thinking that if he can live in the mansion, then why would he go to the annex? But Whisper quietly tells the kid that it is there, in the annex, that the mana cores are located, and Isaac abruptly changes his mind. Riley tells the servants to move away because he doesn't want his nephew living in the haunted annex, but the baby in his arms starts to fuss because he now needs to go to that annex. Riley tells Isaac that she will take him to her room where she will read him holy scriptures instead of a bedtime story. But Isaac doesn't want to because for him it would be an exorcism. On the way to Riley's room with the baby, a man appears and asks why so much fuss is being made about a child. The man tells Riley that he ordered the child to be sent to the outhouse, and that Riley has been away for a long time and is now going to contradict his brother. We are introduced to this man as Howell Joshua. He is the fifth son of this family. Isaac looks at the new face. While the brothers look at each other reproachfully, the little boy thinks that Relia's brother looks like a hooligan. Howell tells his brother to put it down so it goes into the outbuilding, pointing his finger at the child. Riley argues with his older brother, explaining that the baby is a descendant of Joshua and cannot be sent to the place where people were previously sent into exile, At this time, Isaac realizes that the bully belongs to the faction that hates Isaac. Riley holds Isaac close to her chest, ordering her brother to get out of the way so he can read the scriptures to the baby in his room in peace. But Isaac resists, thinking he really wants to go to the annex. Howell touches Isaac's face, asking Riley where he got this child from. The older brother makes fun of the child, and Isaac, looking at his face, gets angry, mentally rejoicing at Howell's desire to send the baby to the annex. But Isaac is still irritated by this man who behaves like a punk. Riley hides the baby, telling her brother that she knows why he wants to send him to the annex, so that people will think the child is cursed because Howell opposes Isaac's candidacy. Isaac doesn't like the words about the candidacy. He already intended to become a saint, suck out all the mana cores and take revenge on the damned gods who deceived him in the past. Howell tells Riley that he heard that a demon was already following this little one, so he must be cursed. But the knights counter that Isaac played a role in driving out this demon. The blue captain argues that since the demon came specifically for Isaac, this proves his importance. And the second knight adds that Isaac definitely has holy power. Gowl continues to be stubborn, replying that everything they say is just funny, and if they want to prove the holiness of the child, then let them show his strength. The whisper tells Isaac that he needs to show Howell his full power and summon the meteorite. Gowl says Isaac has an opportunity to prove his strength. He points to a withered tree, which is a symbol of Joshua's family, and Howell says that the baby must revive this tree that their Lord loves so much. He explains that the holy tree died because of the demon's dark mana, which means that if Isaac really does have holy power, he can restore the tree. Grinning nastily, Howell continues to bully the child. Riley asks his brother to listen to himself, and the kid at this time mentally turns to Melissa, thinking that she fights well, but her descendants are complete idiots. Isaac's attention is distracted by something he sees off to the side. The kid immediately grabs Whisper and sends him flying. Isaac orders his assistant to collect mana. At this point, Riley is still trying to explain to his brother that a baby who can't even speak yet won't be able to revive a tree that has been dead for over 70 years. But Gowl's attention is distracted by what is happening behind his back. The holy tree came to life. Gowl says in amazement that even with the help of healing and cleansing magic, the tree continued to die. Isaac is secretly happy, calling what he did a trifle. The kid says that there was just a little dark mana around the tree's roots and he collected it all, while Whisper says that he absorbed all the mana and ate his fill. The knight captain asks Riley what he just did, but Riley replies that he did nothing. The captain looks at Isaac in surprise, realizing that he did it, and the kid is simply indignant that there was not enough mana, although Whisper told him that he would have vomited then. The knights once again raise a clamor of delight around Isaac, who has revived the tree. Gowl still tries to cast aspersions on the baby, asking how the baby could do what no one else in the house could do. As the knights throw the relaxed Isaac into the air again, Howell says that Riley must have helped the child somehow, but no one wants to listen to the man. Already shaking with anger, Howell accuses his brother of being the one who revived the tree, but Riley objects. No longer able to contain his anger, Howell throws his fists at Riley, saying that he pretended that the little bastard had revived the tree, when in fact it was the saint who had helped him. The knights awkwardly watch the brothers quarrel, with Riley arguing with his brother, explaining that he could not possibly have met the missing saint, and Isaac again mentally addressing Melissa, advising her to focus on raising her children rather than killing demons. Although Isaac doubts that Gowl is Riley's brother after looking at him, he would rather believe that Riley is Melissa in disguise. Whispers suggest that the brother may be a half-brother, but Isaac has a realization that Howell is more like a cardinal. No longer in control of himself, Howell yells at Riley that he knows why he brought the child into the house because he wants to make him a candidate for sainthood, although there is already a candidate in Joshua's house. Isaac is interested in the fact that there are other candidates in the house, and Whisper admires the owner because he doesn't care about competition at all. Riley tells Gowl to leave the baby alone because he is the son of their eldest brother, which means he is their nephew and has the right to be in the house. Gowl argues that the first brother ran away from home when the family needed help, so he shouldn't be considered a brother and his son a nephew. Watching the brothers quarrel, Isaac understands why he is considered an illegitimate child. Howell says with an evil grin that, of course, the child is still the son of a saint, albeit a half-breed. Pulling at the collar of Riley's robe, his brother tells him that the baby looks like that because he looks like a saint since she is his mother, but they cannot be sure that their brother is Isaac's father. and Howl offers to sell the baby if it will help the family. Not wanting to listen to this nonsense, Rely hits his brother in the face. The captain and the other knights are shocked by what they see, and Isaac proudly rubs his nose, thinking about how brothers grow up in fights and mentally thanks them for a bunch of useful information. Rely continues to strike his brother. All the knights try to separate them. At this time, the baby thinks that he is lucky that there is such a mess in this house, which means it will be easier to capture it. The house is almost falling apart anyway. But Whisper sneers that Isaac's brain has shrunk because he's in a child's body, because he didn't think about the fact that if the house falls apart, the baby will go down with the rest. We see Joshua's estate again. Isaac sits on the table, puffing out his cheeks, and then his face expresses extreme irritation. At the long table are members of Joshua's family. They are displeased that it's a boy again, and the peasant girl who was adopted into the family should not have given birth to another useless boy. Isaac is angry because they are going too far. But the matriarch orders everyone to be silent, and the baby's attention is focused on her. She then says that the child has been decided to be raised in a juvenile home, away from prying eyes. The matriarch's name is Henna Joshua. She is the second wife of the current patriarch, Eli Joshua. Henna openly asks Rely why he allowed this child to be born on their lands, and Isaac notes that she is openly hostile. Howl agrees with Henna, demanding to answer the matriarch's question, and Isaac guesses that this woman is the mother of that asshole. Rely takes his time with an answer, calmly asking a counter-question about where his father is. Henna says he left town because of the situation with the sainthood candidate. Rely says it's sad because he should hear the news that the grandson of this house, Isaac, has revived the holy tree. Everyone present jumps up from their seats, unable to believe Rely's words. Howl screams that it was just a coincidence. A small child could not have done such a thing, and the tree was reborn because the prayers of Joshua's family were answered. The rest agree with Gowl, recalling that even the patriarch could not do anything, which means the baby certainly could not, and there is no evidence. Another elder supports the matriarch's words, saying that it was a blessing from the gods, not the baby's strength. Annoyed by their speech, Isaac decides to prove his strength to everyone by stretching his arms forward. Everyone immediately turns to Isaac and stares at him with their mouths open. A bluish glow pours from Isaac's hands, filling the entire room. All the advisors cannot believe what they see. Isaac, smiling, shows them the crystallized energy of the tree. Everyone sat back down in their seats and continued talking, deciding that Isaac had apparently gotten rid of the mana that was destroying the tree. The advisors begin to argue among themselves. Some continue to say that it is impossible, but others are ready to accept the fact that it was Isaac who freed the tree from the curse, because he demonstrated to them the physical form of that very mana. The man in glasses says that this method could have worked, but it was very complicated, and if something went wrong, the tree could have died completely. So the patriarch chose a stable method of purification. Howl is again outraged that the advisors almost believe the baby and is ready to argue with them. Rely, in defense of the baby, says that Isaac could have instinctively expelled the mana, and he agrees. Admiring the baby's strength, Rely praises him, saying that a breastfed child has done what no one from the central papacy has managed to do for 70 years. And Isaac's pride and self-satisfaction grows greatly from his words. But Howl urges the elders to consider that a child who cannot speak could not have done this, and they should not believe Rely, and also that Joshua would be a laughingstock if they found out about this, and Isaac does not look like Joshua's son. Isaac doesn't care at all what Howl is chatting about. He deliberately ignores him. Rely attracts the attention of the elders by saying that this child will definitely become a saint, and even, with a high probability, the next pope. Isaac, who himself was counting on this, smiles silently in agreement, and lifting the baby above his head, Riley happily tells everyone that Isaac will kill the demon king. But these words angered Isaac. The matriarch immediately intervenes, offering to test the baby since Rely is so confident in him. Henna says she will request permission to use the divine relics vault. The picture moves to the northwestern lands of the empire, a dark forest. A man with a flowing cloak stands in the midst of the defeated demons. The knight kneels before him and greets the patriarch, who asks what happened. The knight reports that his confidant requests permission to use the repository of divine relics. The patriarch, thinking that the Holy Throne asked for permission, forbids it. But the knight says that it was not the throne, and tells that the patriarch's grandson revived the sacred tree. So Henna wants to test whether the baby has the qualities of a saint. The patriarch turns to the knight with interest, asking what he means. With a stern face, Patriarch Eli Joshua asks why there is a saint in his house. Eli says that he does not allow the vault to be used because only a saint can survive in that place, and orders the knight to tell everyone to stop squabbling. Their conversation is interrupted by another person who approaches, who, on the contrary, is not against using the storage facility. The woman comes closer and asks the knight if it was Isaac who brought the tree to life. She says that this is very impressive if true, and we are told that this is Melissa Joshua, a former saint and true matriarch. She suggests that all the saint candidates be tested since the vault will have to be opened anyway. The knight asks her again if it is possible to do this, since a child from another family might take something from there. Melissa says that this is exactly what she hopes for, because even the best saints could not take anything from there. Melissa says that if someone manages to take something from the vault, perhaps that person will then be able to track down the Demon King and kill him. Therefore, Melissa not only does not prohibit the use of the storage, but also offers to award a prize to anyone who can do it. Melissa orders the knight to tell everyone that the child who brings the most valuable item from the vault will receive a reward that even Dad cannot give. She promises to give the winner the Joshua family heirloom and personally teach him her secret technique. The vault contains secret technology and divine relics. It was always guarded by a saint. It is believed that Joshua is the owner of that place. Only children under 10 years old can enter there, so it was used as a ritual for candidates for sainthood. When children turned 1 year old, they went in and chose something from there. People predicted what qualities the child would have based on what item he brought. However, the vault is so dangerous that even candidates risk their lives when entering, and after several deaths, the vault was sealed. Whisper teases Isaac, telling him to see if the little gentleman can get out alive and with the treasure, to which Isaac irritably tells the assistant to back off. Whisper asks if Isaac is looking forward to this challenge, and he happily agrees. The baby's face immediately becomes too happy, because rumor has it that this is where the remains of the Skeleton King are located. Isaac's joy is stopped by the captain, who takes his hands. The knight tells Isaac that the matriarch has opened the vault to everyone. Joyfully throwing Isaac up in the air, the captain says that children from all families will be tested. 5 main houses are participating, and although Dad's family will also show up, the captain assures the kid that he will be the one to win. Isaac can't believe his luck. This situation is beneficial to him, because the more people, the less attention, and the easier it is to get his body back. Other hands catch the baby in mid-flight, and Riley's voice tells Isaac to be careful. After picking up the child, Riley explains that the vault is guarded from the inside by captive demons, but Isaac does not understand the danger. He thinks that all the demons, since they were captured, are definitely rank 6 or lower, so the kid thinks that he will just use force. But after putting Isaac in bed, Riley continues to tell him that rank 8 demons are not easy to deal with. The captain adds that the 9th rank dragon is perhaps the worst of all. Isaac, listening to them, wonders what such demons are doing there. Whisper complains that Joshua is clearly crazy for keeping a dragon where a lot of children gather, but at least Isaac knows a lot about dragons. However, Isaac nervously bites his nails and is not at all happy about the information, because for him, dragons are dangerous in a different sense, since in the past he often deceived them. Isaac remembered how angry the adult dragons would get when a skeleton sold something they shouldn't to younger dragons or an elder. Isaac realizes that the situation is not very good, because dragons have a good memory, and they can also recognize his soul, and Whisper laughs at Isaac, saying that perhaps he should change his master. Isaac analyzes what is happening, concluding that there are rank 8 demons and a rank 9 dragon in the vault, and in his current state, Isaac can only deal with rank 6 demons. So Isaac is aiming to take all the mana cores that Joshua has seen so far. The kid happily commands his assistant to get ready for the extension. A beautiful sunny day, Joshua's majestic estate. Isaac sits on the floor reading a book, Whisper next to him. The baby's face looks like he's about to give up the ghost. The book he's reading is about exorcism and the different ways to drive out the Demon King. Isaac regrets that he does not understand how to control the holy power, and therefore cannot learn what is written in the book. Isaac wants someone to simply explain everything to him. He is even ready to control someone else's mind to force them to teach. But Whisper reminds him that the king is going to use the dark power in the center of the clergy, and this could raise the estate to the ground. Isaac is tired. He rubs his eyes sleepily. He's bored because he does not understand anything, because he does not know the theory. Isaac yawns and Riley picks him up. Riley says the baby looks tired. Apparently he had a busy day, and Isaac thinks that children his age should sleep 16 hours a day. While Riley carries the baby to bed, the night captain looks at the book the child was looking at. Riley raises his open palm over Isaac's head, and Isaac looks at it with interest. Riley casts a restoration spell, and Isaac is filled with strength again, rejoicing at the new holy spell. While Riley talks to the captain, Isaac tries to get out of bed, asking his uncle to also use an attack spell to see how it works. But Whisper asks the master not to move. Whisper reminds Isaac that he needs to get to the annex quickly, and to do that, the adults need to leave, and Isaac agrees with the assistant. He needs to get rid of Riley and the captain quickly, so Isaac quickly pretends to be asleep, but Whisper says that no one will fall for that. But Riley and the knight are only touched by how quickly the baby falls asleep, and Whisper is perplexed as to how they could have fallen for Isaac's poor acting. Isaac just chuckles slyly, and his assistant is amazed at the intelligence of the little people. The adults leave, but Isaac hears them say that the totem is dangerous and needs to be taken away, causing the baby to suddenly open his eyes. Riley says that the totem is very valuable because it is the first one that Isaac made, and this thing must be protected, and the captain promises to fulfill this order. Realizing that the totem was taken, the kid sheds tears in 3 streams, because he was going to resurrect the demon again in order to use it or pump out mana from it. But thinking that the mana can now be pumped out of the extension, Isaac becomes more animated. The baby climbs out of the crib, already getting ready to go, to which Whisper asks him if the gentleman is really going to crawl to the extension and if he is sure that he will get there today. Isaac tells the assistant that he has a plan and asks him to simply open the door for him. Whisper complies with the order, but warns that he will not be able to carry him the whole way. Isaac flops down on the floor and hears from Whisper that the door is locked from the outside, not only with a lock, but also with a holy spell that his uncle cast, so the kid is angry. Isaac asks to break the lock, but the assistant rightly notes that then everyone will decide that the child was attacked and will run into the room, and Isaac gets even more furious because he really needs mana. He stands near the door, thinking how to break it. But then the door opens, hitting the baby in the face. A boy looks into Isaac's room. The boy enters the room holding the totem in his hand and looks at the baby. Seeing the baby, the boy exclaims in surprise that the child doesn't even know how to walk yet. We are introduced to this boy. This is the son of Gowl. He is also a candidate for sainthood from the house of Joshua. His name is Shuri, and he is 5 years old. Isaac is confused by the fact that he is bleeding, and his assistant is outraged that someone dared to harm his master. Shuri looks at Isaac with resentment. He does not perceive the baby as a rival. He is offended and does not believe that Isaac was able to make a totem that Shuri herself could not make. A spell light appears on the boy's palm and Isaac watches it carefully. Shuri says that he will become a saint by continuing to perform magic. The boy scolds the baby for daring to want something that belongs to Shuri. But Isaac doesn't listen and quietly uses mana to pull the rattle towards himself. With a sweet smile, the baby sends the rattle flying and it hits Shuri right in the face. Isaac rejoices, realizing that he has found someone who will carry him. Shuri holds her bruised nose, trying to hold back tears, and yells at the baby, asking if he knows who Shuri is, and Isaac draws the right conclusions, because Shuri looks like the bully uncle. Swinging the rattle again, the kid says that he saw the boy gathering holy power for an attack, and therefore deserved a couple of slaps. The baby hits Shuri with a rattle, who falls to his knees and drops the totem, trying to protect himself from the blows with his hands. Rather than allowing himself to be hit again, the boy puts up a small protective barrier, telling Isaac not to think of himself as someone special. Isaac looks at the new spell Shuri used with interest. The boy boasts that at his age no one can use a 3rd-tier spell, and then plans to show the kid another spell. He casts a 3rd-tier offensive holy spell, Radiant Holy, preparing to attack Isaac. Isaac is truly impressed by what he sees, but he is not afraid of this magic. He is simply learning new things. Grinning, the baby says thank you to Shuri in his baby talk, soaking up his knowledge. Isaac erects a protective barrier around himself, much larger than the one used by Howl's son just recently. Shuri is shocked by the power and size of the spell the baby cast. Isaac laughs with joy that he learned a new spell from the boy because his uncle did not teach him this. And with the next spell, Isaac is going to repeat the attack, exactly the same as Shuri did, but much larger in size and power. Shuri looks at the approaching attack spell with fear. Isaac thanks the boy for the lesson. Shuri tries to escape from the attack and asks Isaac to stop, But the attack reaches its target and the baby admires the blue fire burning. Whisper tells his master that it was a nice sight, but that members of this family cannot be killed. Isaac does not understand why the assistant is talking about murder, because he did not even hit the boy. Shuri lies on the floor, covering her head with her hands and in complete shock from fear. Embarrassed by his fright, the boy gets to his feet and starts yelling at the baby that he shouldn't scare him since he can't hit. But Isaac just chuckles. Shuri swings at the baby, saying that he will never be able to defeat him, a candidate for sainthood. But a voice is heard from the side. The boy turns around in fear at the sound. Behind Shuri stands the Shadow Lich, who asks him how he dared attack the king. Towering over the confused boy, the Lich asks if Shuri wants to die while the boy holds on to the pet demon. Seeing the demon, Shuri simply begins to cry, realizing that he cannot cope with the Shadow Lich. Isaac sits on the demon's shoulder and asks the boy why he is sitting there. With a menacing smile, Isaac orders Shuri to carry him. Shuri walks through the estate at night, repeating to herself what his name is and that he will definitely become a saint, escape from Joshua and become a pope. But now, for some reason, some toddler is bossing him around and Shuri is shocked by the situation. Isaac is happily riding on the boy's shoulders, waving his rattle, and Shuri is angry at the baby and does not want to work as a riding horse. He again begins to threaten the baby. But the Shadow Lich immediately approaches the boy and tells him to move if he doesn't want to be torn to pieces. Shuri turns pale in fear and ignores the demon calling him a human bug. The boy decides to focus on staying alive. With tears in her eyes, Shuri quietly whispers, asking someone to save him. Isaac, like a seasoned horseman, points with a rattle in which direction Shuri should go, and he tries to follow orders. But Shuri is curious about where the baby is going in the middle of the night, so he asks Isaac this question. Upon reaching the place, the boy realizes that they have reached the extension of Joshua's house, which is considered to be a haunted house. Isaac is excited, but Shuri is afraid, because the patriarch forbade everyone to enter the annex since several people have already died there, and this crazy kid dragged him here in the middle of the night. Isaac and Whisper exchange a sly glance, and the assistant reports that it looks like several dozen people died in the annex. Looking at all the mana cores, Whisper says that one would have to train to death for decades to accumulate that much. The baby points the rattle forward, ordering Shuri to move, but the boy does not want to go in, and the adults have forbidden it. But the Shadow Lich leans towards Shuri's face again and tells him to shut up and go. Shuri is forced to comply, and they find themselves inside that very annex. Shuri is beside herself with fear, but Isaac simply looks around the room in a businesslike manner, noting the state of the extension inside. The kid notices a door ahead, and his attention is drawn to a light haze curling around the door. Whispers inform the gentleman that the entire building is sealed. There is some kind of barrier on the door. Isaac is very disappointed. Shuri trembles and asks Isaac to come back, since everything inside the building is sealed anyway. But Isaac notices something and pulls Shuri's hair hard, making him cry in pain, not understanding why he is being done this. Shuri asks to let go of his hair, but then he himself sees what the baby was looking at. On the walls hang huge frames with portraits, covered with glass. Shuri recognizes past patriarchs in them. Shuri thinks out loud, thinking that Isaac wants to take the patriarch's place and that he will not succeed, because Shuri herself wants to take that place. But the baby does not listen, imbuing the rattle with strengthening magic. The next second, the rattle flies into the glass with a whistle. Shuri's eyes bulged from what she saw and her jaw almost dropped to the floor. Isaac controls his toy to break all the glass on the portraits, and Shuri yells at him that he's gone crazy. The kid rightly points out that there is no need to put barriers on portraits. As soon as the glass fell from the paintings, Whisper reported that the barrier had been destroyed throughout the entire hall, and Isaac was pleased with his ingenuity. The baby immediately jumps joyfully onto the floor, and Shuri asks him where he is going. With a sly face, the baby rolls towards the door to get to it faster while Shuri continues to scold him. Isaac, having reached the room, opens the door with a joyful smile, feeling delighted by the filling of the room. Isaac orders Whisper to close the door, but Shuri rushes after him, asking what he is doing. Smiling widely, the baby turns to the boy, mentally saying that a child like Shuri doesn't need to know this. Left alone, the baby focuses on the energy that fills the room. Shuri knocks on the locked door from outside and tells Isaac to get out of there quickly, or he'll call the adults and tell them everything. Continuing to pound on the door, Shuri threatens the boy that if the adults find out, Isaac will be kicked out, and the boy does not notice the stranger's steps behind his back at all. But Riley calls the boy's name and Shuri breaks out in a cold sweat, realizing that he's been caught. Riley asks what Shuri is doing here, and turning around, the boy says that his uncle came at the right time because Isaac is a monster. But one of the elders starts scolding Shuri because he knows he's not allowed in the annex. But he came and even brought Isaac with him. The boy makes a confused face and does not understand why the adults are angry at him. The elder says that so many people saw Shuri carrying Isaac on his back, and there were traces of attacking holy magic in the boy's room, so everyone considered the boy a villain. Shuri tries to justify himself by saying that he really did all this, but he was forced to. No one listens to the boy's excuses, Riley, putting his hands on his nephew's shoulders, tells him that this time he has gone really far. You can't offend a baby who hasn't even been weaned yet. Riley asks Shuri where he locked Isaac, and the boy begins to cry, replying that he didn't lock him anywhere. While Shuri explains that Isaac came in on his own, Riley hears rustling sounds coming from behind the door. Riley approaches the locked door and calls out to Isaac, while the elders whisper about Shuri's bad behavior. Riley opened the door with excitement. Isaac sat on the threshold in tears to pretend to be innocent, and so that the adults would not guess anything and would feel sorry for him. The elder asks if the baby is okay, worried that he looks scared, and Shuri doesn't understand what's going on and why Isaac is crying. Riley soothingly presses the baby to her chest, telling everyone that the child is fine. He was just scared, but nothing happened. Riley gives Shuri a very stern look and says that he should be ashamed. Shuri is crying. He is offended that no one believes him. He really is not guilty. Isaac, like a true actor without an Oscar, peers over his uncle's shoulder and thanks Shuri for filling his belly. Seeing this, Shuri gets angry and calls Isaac a brat in her heart, which greatly surprises the elder. At this time, Isaac is happy that he received so much mana, more than he expected. He could only get so much mana after 100 years of training, and now he will be able to implement his plan much faster. Isaac laughs maliciously, and a dark aura thickens around him. But Riley decides that it is because the baby is really scared. The next morning, Joshua's estate. Isaac and Whisper are reading a book, but Riley comes and says that he wants to introduce him to someone. The baby raises his head with interest. Next to Riley stands a girl with a short haircut. Uncle calls her a Seelie and tells Isaac that she will be his assistant. The girl then introduces herself, calling herself the Paladin of the House of Joshua, a Seelie Lark. She kneels before the baby and says that she will serve him until she dies, to which Isaac purses his lips in displeasure. He rolls his eyes, realizing that he was being followed because of what happened in the annex. Isaac makes a stern face and points his finger at a Seelie, starting to babble. The kid makes a scary face, raising his hands menacingly, trying to tell the girl in his baby language that she is fired and can get out of sight. A Seelie and Riley look at Isaac's movements in confusion. The girl's shadow looms over the baby. Isaac looks at a Seelie suspiciously. The girl, blushing, asks Riley for permission to squeeze the baby's cheeks. She is beside herself with delight. Riley smiles sweetly, but Isaac does not share the delight and thinks that absolutely everyone in this house is crazy. Riley puts his hand in his pocket. He wants to give Isaac something. Isaac's uncle shows the little boy a box containing a simple silver ring, and he says it is a gift. Isaac looks at the ring with disgust, mentally wondering if Riley found the jewelry in the trash can. Whisper also chimes in, saying that he heard about Joshua's financial crisis. Apparently it's true, since his uncle is giving him something that can't be called a gift for the gentleman's first birthday. But a Seelie, having recognized the thing, says that it is a relic of a saint. Now Isaac is really interested in the gift, since it is a relic, and Riley, stroking the baby on the head, says that he took this ring from the council especially for Isaac. Isaac realizes that this is a real relic. It is this ring that the saints used in the battles against him, and this ring contains a small miracle of God. In Isaac's hands, the ring becomes covered with a bright glow. This is the holy power stored in the ring. Isaac is already making clever plans on how to fix the ring if it breaks, because right now it looks pretty fragile and will most likely break after a couple of uses. Howl stands under the tree and looks angrily at Isaac and his new gift. Isaac sees his murderous gaze and understands that this is the best proof of the ring's authenticity, because Howl looks at his little nephew as if he is ready to kill him. Howl decides to approach the baby, calling him his cute little nephew. He smiles widely at Isaac, complimenting him. Uncle asks if Isaac is comfortable in this place, but Isaac and Whisper are completely shocked by his smile and kind words. Gowl tries to keep his face and smile, but he thinks to himself that everything is getting complicated. He even broke the blessing device. But everything went wrong, and now Isaac has received the relic of the saint. One of the elders had no problem giving Riley a ring for the baby since he wouldn't be able to receive the blessing. And Howl saw it. Gowl even asked to give the relic to Shuri, since it was so easy to ask for such a valuable thing. But the elder says that Shuri has already received a blessing from the Holy Throne and there is no need to be greedy. Howl was angry because he wanted to take this ring and give it to the Holy See, and now the ring is in the hands of a baby who won't even understand the value of the thing. Howl puts on a businesslike air and tells Rely that if he was going to give the baby a gift, he should have chosen something better than such trash. But Rely is outraged by the way his brother talks about holy things. Howl says that Isaac and his precious nephew are too, and Howl has a box in his hands. He opens the box in front of the child, and in it lies an expensive-looking gold ring with a stone. Gowl says that this thing is imbued with blessings from the Holy See, and it is this ring that will be able to bring more benefit to the relic storage, and Rylai will never be able to get something like this. Rylai watches what is happening with interest and surprise. Continuing to smile openly, the uncle offers the little boy to take the gold ring and give him the old silver ring. But Isaac only responds by slamming the new gift into Howl's face with all his might, saying in his childish language that the ring smells terribly of Dad. And then he sends the ring into a long flight, while his uncle is in shock. Rely and Asili silently watch everything that is happening, and Gowl watches as the ring falls somewhere into the water. Rylai is surprised by Isaac's action, because the ring from Gowl looked 1,000 times more expensive than the one he gave. Isaac smiles sweetly at Rylai, showing the silver ring in his hand. Out of joy, Rely and Asili throw Isaac into the air and the uncle promises to give his nephew the best of everything. Meanwhile, Gowl and his assistants are looking for the gold ring in the water, because the ring is important. But Isaac sneers that they will never find the ring. He put magic on it for weight. Whisper praises the master for not touching such a vile ring with a finger. But Isaac orders his assistant to take the ring at dawn because it will cost a fortune. Whisper is not delighted, but agrees to carry out the order. Howl screams, falling to his knees, because the ring is lost, but the servants do not know how to help him. In his office, the man scolds Isaac in front of the knight, saying that the brat can't even imagine the cost of the ring. But Gowl quickly calms down, saying that the child will not be able to use the item correctly anyway. Howl continues to tell the knight that in order to use the silver ring, one must absorb the holy power of at least 20 people, and this is impossible. So the ring will be useless for Isaac, since it is unlikely that even 10 will come to his first birthday. The next day, people gather at Joshua's estate. Many families arrived with their children. They walk around and greet each other, introduce the children. Asili, Rely, and Isaac watch what is happening in the courtyard from the window. The girl is surprised at how many people have gathered, because there are more than 148 candidates for sainthood alone. And taking into account the nobles and servants, there are more than 4,000 people there. Asili continues to marvel at how many people have arrived, but Isaac is not at all inspired. Isaac wonders why there are so many candidates for sainthood, whether the gods got lazy and scattered them all over the place, to which Whisper replies that this is exactly what the gods usually do. Rylai says he didn't expect such a stir. He thought it was a trap and no one would come. At that moment, a young man with a wide smile runs into the room and loudly greets Rylai. His name is Simon Age. He is a friend of Rylai, an earl, the head of one of the 3 trade unions. Rylai is surprised that Simon has also arrived, but his friend replies that rumors have spread throughout the empire and he could not help but come. Simon continues to chatter about how everyone realized that it was not a trap and decided to come and look at the weaklings of Joshua. His words do not please Rely and Asili. Simon says with a smile that he couldn't miss such a moment because even his dad's family would be coming. Isaac was surprised to hear about his dad. Rylai tells his friend that Dad's family would never participate. Simon agrees. He also thought that Dad's family would refuse to come to Joshua's lands because they hate everyone except Barrett's family. The shadow approaches the door, from where a conversation can be heard, where Rely asks his friend to be quieter, but he does not see anything wrong in his words, reminding that his son is also a candidate for sainthood, and the Pope's family should not interfere. And yet Rely asks to be careful with words. The conversation is interrupted by the door opening and the person entering recalling the old saying that there is nothing more dangerous than a vulgar friend. Dad stands on the threshold with a poisonous smile, adding to his words that the wisdom of the ancestors is always right. Simon immediately became quiet, realizing that he had said too much and that his dad had heard him. Rely is confused. He doesn't know what to say in his defense. The cardinal smiles grimly, saying that he never thought that such a weak man from the Joshua family would organize such an event. He also says that he hopes that Isaac can bring back something from the relic vault to save the family's face. The Pope looks ahead, expressing a desire to see the child Joshua, who dared to call himself a candidate for sainthood, but he does not see him. At this time, Asili hides Isaac behind Riley's back, making his face even more disgusted. Pope Hirej Barrett says that this is a great opportunity for Joshua, and he will sincerely pray that the candidate for sainthood will bring glory to the name of this family. Riley senses a catch. He begins to think that this could be a trick on the part of the Holy See, because it is strange that the number of candidates has grown from 25 to 148 in just a week, and this can only be explained by the fact that the Holy See turns a blind eye to the fact that even the lower families have put forward their candidates. Riley turns to Isaac with concern, realizing that once all the candidates are placed in the vault, each of them will want to throw out the weakest one in order to win, meaning they could harm the baby during the chaos. Asili is worried, also understanding the situation, but Isaac just calmly picks his nose, sitting in the girl's arms, not caring about the upcoming test. This is the Joshua family crest. We are told that the boys of the Joshua family always had good looks and an impeccable family reputation, but other than that, they were always useless. But there were those who wanted to obtain Joshua's superior genes by marrying their daughters to him. Or there were those who tried to gain the favor of the Pope, who hated the holy race. For such people, the Joshua boys were ideal prey. An unknown hooded man gave the child a bottle, asking him to give it to baby Joshua, explaining that it was a prank. The man said that this bottle contains something that will not kill the child, but will prevent him from doing anything. The man ordered the contents of the bottle to be mixed with water and given to the baby, saying that the container contained holy poison, and with its help, one could teach the boy a lesson about how cruel the world can be. However, there were already a bunch of such bottles lying on the floor. Many children watch with their mouths open as what is happening, and Isaac happily finishes another bottle of this kind, not paying attention to the surprise of the other children. After finishing the contents of the bottle, Isaac squints with pleasure, wiping his mouth as if he had just drunk a can of beer. The baby laughs, swinging the empty bottle in the air, but the other children are scared to look at how much he has already drunk. The kid throws a bottle at one of the boys, demanding that he bring more because this poison cannot kill him. Isaac laughs evilly and demands more poisoned water, and the child at whom Isaac threw the bottle cries in pain and wants to go home. The other children try to calm him down. All the boys are trying to figure out what's wrong with the baby. They are scared by the amount he drank. They whisper that there should have been a laxative in the bottle, and out of confusion they start to think that the baby could have taken the wrong bottle, while Shuri is ashamed of Isaac, who is drinking more and more poisoned water. Shuri goes to the baby, who is drinking from the poisoned bottle again. He abruptly snatches the bottle from Isaac's hands, telling him to stop drinking. Otherwise, it looks like he's dehydrated. Shuri hands the baby another bottle, offering to drink from it, but Isaac is not at all impressed. He throws the object in the boy's face, babbling as he replies that the water he brought is not poisoned and therefore he doesn't need it. The baby crawls up to another boy who has another bottle of poison and demands to give it to him, but he doesn't understand why the baby is so energetic and doesn't really want to give the bottle back, while Shuri is lying on the floor with an imprint on her face from the bottle thrown at her. A child with a bottle in his hand says that it contains holy poison, which greatly surprises another child, because he is sure that the baby will die from this, and Isaac is very surprised to hear about holy poison. Tired of waiting for another dose of poison, the baby attacks the children with a bottle, trying with all his might to take away the thing he needs. Isaac gets into a fight with the boy, wanting to take the bottle away, while the other children talk about the baby's incredible resistance to poisons. The boys whisper that perhaps the baby knows that the water is poisoned. Some children assume that the baby has a high rank of spells against poisons. Others say that by drinking all the poison, Isaac is deliberately trying to save others. But Shuri is sure that this is not so. Suddenly, Shuri looks up to look at the boy who just approached, distracting herself from her thoughts about Isaac. A boy with silver hair and golden eyes, dressed in a long white robe, asks if others consider the child's behavior self-sacrifice. Shuri jumps to his feet, realizing that it is Kaina Barrett in front of him, and the boy is very surprised by his presence because his father's family has never participated in the trials before. The child with yellow eyes is indeed named Kaina Barrett, and he is the direct heir of his father's family. The other children are also surprised and do not understand what a child from the father's family is doing in the vault of a saint that Barrett's family hates. Isaac, who managed to defeat the boy and take away the bottle of poison, sits and listens to conversations about how, apparently, the winner of the test is known in advance. Looking at Kina, Isaac ponders the boy's strange hair color, wondering if it might even have been dyed, since everyone else in their family has brown hair. At the same time, Kina explains to those present that his presence is not at all strange, because the Pope's family is the head of all the clergy, which means that the repository of the saints' relics also belongs to them. This statement discourages Shuri. Kina boasts that he has come to take what is rightfully his. The other children are confused. Isaac smirks at the boy's arrogant speech and thinks that this really confirms his relationship with his father. Isaac also sees Kina's holy power, realizing that it surpasses the bishop's holy power, and this impresses Isaac a little. The kid understands that a candidate for sainthood is expected to have enormous holy power. While Isaac examines his father's descendant, Kina tells the others how vile it is to mock a child in an attempt to humiliate the family of the estate's owner. Sitting down on her knee in front of the baby, Kina says that the child cannot be resistant to poisons, and it is the power of the saint trying to protect him. With a kind smile, Kina reaches out to Isaac to cleanse the baby of the poison. Kina tries to take the baby in her arms, which has gathered holy power, the other children whisper, admiring the boy's holy power and his ability to use the detoxification spell. But Isaac does not believe in Kina's good intentions. While Kina uses the spell with a peaceful face, Isaac realizes that the boy is simply using it to show off his strength to others and plans revenge. Isaac slaps Kina across the face, leaving a mark. The other children note that the boy's holy power has disappeared. Kina, with a swollen cheek, looks at the baby in surprise. Isaac slips out of Kina's grasp as he stands there confused, unable to believe that his holy power is gone. Kina trembled with anger and the thought that the baby could be stronger than him. In rage, Kina clenches her fists and looks at Isaac with a look full of anger, mentally calling him an insect Joshua. Isaac responds with a similar look, asking what Kina is looking at and calling him baby. Isaac squeezes the bottle tightly, crushing it, and begins to threaten in his baby language, promising to smash Kina's skull with this bottle. Shuri suddenly lunges forward, grabbing Isaac, screaming at him not to do this. The rest of the children are confused by what is happening. Kina looks at this picture with the thought that Shuri is looking after the baby because they are one family, and the rest are whispering about how ugly Isaac acted, hitting in the face the one who wanted to save him. But Shuri, pinning Isaac to the floor, mentally calls the children idiots for not understanding that if it weren't for him, they would have all been hit over the head with a bottle by now. Isaac is furious that he was interrupted so abruptly. Kina says that everything is fine. He understands that he could have surprised Isaac because he is still just a baby. Turning around, Kina leaves and wishes Joshua's children luck, telling them to bring back some trinket from the vault to save the family's face. Shuri continues to hold Isaac close as he glares at the insolent boy. Turning around halfway, Kina adds that he will still take the best treasure in the vault. Kina sneers that Joshua doesn't even dare to approach the remains of the Demon King. But this information really interests Isaac. Shuri quietly calls the child of her father's family disgusting, wondering why he causes so much trouble. Isaac starts screaming loudly, demanding in childish language from Shuri an explanation about Kina's words about the remains of the skeleton. Shuri was frightened by the surprise. But Shuri doesn't understand what the baby wants from him and why he shakes him from side to side. Finally understanding what Isaac wants, Shuri announces the head of the family's decision to pass on the secret technique to the child who will bring the body of the Demon King. Hearing this, the baby cannot contain his surprise. Isaac scolds Melissa for daring to mock his former body. The children calm down and just wait for the test to begin. Talking to each other, Shuri sits quietly near the column, and Isaac, not far from him, finishes drinking the remaining poisoned water. Out of boredom, the baby reflects on his past. Isaac thinks about all the mana that has accumulated in his body over the centuries, and if he can get it, he will instantly reach the 10th rank. But all the children present will become an obstacle in his way, so Isaac glares at them, and the boys awkwardly turn away, avoiding looking him in the eyes. Throwing the crushed bottle aside, Isaac muses that he will step over anyone who gets in his way. Shuri becoming increasingly frightened by his actions. Interrupting the children's quiet time, a male advisor from the Joshua family approaches them and asks all the children to gather as they are about to leave for the vault. The advisor begins to tell that the relic vault is the Holy of Holies and that important relics are located there. But Isaac is bored listening to the story from the very beginning. The baby doesn't wait for the man to finish. He starts to crawl forward, but Shuri tries to stop him with a whisper. A cloud of dust rises and Shuri turns away to cover her face. Everyone is distracted from the elder's story, and Shuri tells the man that it is Isaac. The baby, having strengthened himself with magic, joyfully rushes forward. The elder shouts after the kid that he can't go there. There is a restricted area there and he can activate the traps. The children, watching Isaac's behavior, silently open their mouths. Having recovered from the initial shock, the man rushes after the baby and all the boys rush after him. Kina yells at the others to make sure they stop the little bastard. At this time, in the banquet hall of Joshua's house, the adults are waiting for their children. Relai and Asili stand aside, and the girl expresses hope that the young master is all right. One of the servants comes out onto the balcony and attracts the attention of everyone present by creating a magical sphere and announcing that they have established a connection with the inner space. The servant says that the familiars are following the candidate who took third place. So now everything will become clear, because the door to the first storage has opened, which means the test has begun. Riley is surprised that the test began so soon. The servant says that Armin Age is in third place, and Simon jumps up and down with joy and pride, clenching his fists. The servant then calls out the name of Shuri Joshua, who is in second place, and Gowel is very surprised by this, but quickly corrects himself and also praises his son. While the servant looks at who goes first, Relai and Asili are nervous. Finally, the servant loudly calls out Isaac's name, and Relai and Asili cannot contain their strong surprise. The magic ball shows a baby running at incredible speed, and an elder running after him. The servant again announces that Isaac Joshua is in first place. The elder tries with all his might to catch up with the little boy, persuading him not to go there. The man's hair and clothes are in disarray. He is exhausted, but still tries to catch up with the boy. The elder shouts that more traps will be activated if he heads there, but then Isaac's little foot hits another tile, which is pressed, and the elder is caught in a barrage of fire. The boys shy away from the triggered trap. Some start calling their mother and asking for help. Shuri runs after Isaac, screaming, trying to keep up. He shouts after the kid, calling him crazy and asking why he went where he wasn't wanted and created this mess. Still trying to catch Isaac, Shuri yells at him that the vault is already dangerous to live in, and now they have to dodge traps set for intruders. Isaac slows down as he reaches the doors to the next vault, but Shuri yells after him that the kid chose the wrong doors. Having a break, Whisper boasts to Isaac that thanks to the mana absorbed in the annex, he has become even stronger, to which the child replies that now the assistant will be able to work harder. Isaac orders Whisper to go and get him, pointing his finger in the right direction, and the assistant goes to carry out the order. The other boys also stop to rest, complaining that the test was already too difficult. A whisper passed over them. One of the children, distracted from the conversation, looks away in surprise. Pointing his finger, he says that this is Joshua's child, while Shuri rises into the air. While the other boys try to remember his name, Shuri dangles helplessly. The children begin to wonder how he flies, assuming that his family taught him the necessary spell beforehand. But Shuri despairs that this is not the case, and he flies against his will, wanting to be let go. And at this time, the joyful Whisper drags the boy to Isaac, and now it becomes clear who his little one asked to bring. Whisper drops Shuri next to Isaac, informing him that he has brought an informant. The kid smiles contentedly. Shuri lifts her face from the floor. Her nose is broken, but he doesn't pay attention and asks Isaac to stop this madness, telling the kid that even though he somehow miraculously passed the first vault, where there was a test of choice, the second vault is much more dangerous and can kill him. Shuri still tries to explain that the baby will need to overcome his fears and choose a difficult path, but Isaac, considering his brother noisy, activates another trap. As a defeated Shuri smokes on the floor, Isaac asks him to explain what is in the second vault. Shuri forces herself to explain that once they enter the vault, they must not attack the enemies under any circumstances. The kid is surprised, calling the information nonsense and does not understand why he cannot attack. But Shuri says that this is the only way. No matter what appears there, you just need to stand for 3 minutes until they disappear. Shuri tearfully asks Isaac to confirm that he understood everything for sure, otherwise they will both die. Isaac understands that the next test will be patience. Shuri doubts Isaac, reminding that someone really died in the second vault. The kid is ready to comply with the conditions because they are not complicated. He just needs to not attack for 3 minutes. With these thoughts, he opens the door of the second storage. As the door opens, a voice welcomes everyone to the level of equanimity, telling them that patience is a virtue and reminding them to remain calm and steadfast. Isaac looks into the opening room with a sweet face, and the voice continues that patience will definitely lead to light. Next, we are shown a group of children led by Kina. The boy asks Kina if everything is okay, since they are the last ones to go. Kina, with a cheeky grin, replies that there is no need to go down a dangerous path. Cannon fodder will do everything for them. Kina reminds the boys that there is an 8th rank demon at the entrance to the second storage facility, and the rest of the children will most likely be stuck there. Pleased with himself, Kina points forward. The boys look at the bright light at the end of the corridor. Kina says the test has already begun. When Shuri and Isaac saw who was speaking to them from behind the door, they felt a chill and goosebumps run through them. A young man in white robes, looking like a god, greeted the children with a sweet smile. Without even letting the man who met him finish his sentence, Isaac immediately attacked him with a spell. Less than 3 seconds had passed. While Isaac was viciously attacking the gatekeeper, Shuri watched what was happening with her eyes bulging and her mouth wide open. Shuri remembered how a minute ago Isaac promised not to attack the one inside and to wait 3 minutes. And after what he saw, he sighed tiredly. Watching the burning gates, Shuri clutches her head and screams at Isaac about how crazy he is. In anger, Isaac mutters that he couldn't stay calm while looking at the god's face, and Whisper backs him up by saying that 3 seconds was enough. The voice informs that the children have failed, and divine punishment will be brought into effect for those who failed. A huge stone golem appears in the doorway. Isaac sits and calmly looks at the monster that has appeared, not even thinking about moving from his place. Shuri is ready to give up and says it's over, looking at the monster in horror, but Isaac prepares a new attack. Having collected mana, Isaac launches it at the golem. Shuri becomes more and more shocked by everything Isaac does. Isaac's spell destroyed the golem's core and it began to disintegrate. The baby sits with a serious face while Shuri wonders who he really is. The entrance to the second vault is blocked by golem debris. Isaac sits calmly in front of him, and Shuri is completely devastated by the baby's antics. Isaac looks at the dust that flew away after the golem crumbled, thinking that the demon was too weak for the promised 8th rank. After examining the remnants of magic, the child realizes that the golem was created by the magic of his subordinate, who is part of the elite squad of 14 familiars. This kind of magic is their hallmark, and Isaac wonders about the possibility that his subordinates are now working for Joshua like dogs, or that this place is connected to his body. Deciding that he will find out when he sees everything with his own eyes, the baby goes on, and Shuri again asks where he went. They are distracted by the boy's voice, and Shuri turns to the speaker, who is glad that Joshua's boys did them a favor. A red-haired boy comes out of the bushes, followed by several more children. The boy in front is called Nazar Sepet, and he is the son of the head of the Duke. He brazenly tells the other children that he was sure that Joshua's children knew how to pass the test. Nazar snidely thanks Shuri and Isaac for defeating the gatekeeper, then asks them to get out of the way so they can enter the second vault first, lest Isaac activate the traps again. Shuri was confused, but Isaac just noted to himself how many people had survived the traps in the first vault. Nazar states that he didn't think Joshua's children were capable of such meanness, interfering with others using the storage device. The red-haired boy asks Shuri outright if he is working with the baby, and the question almost makes Shuri's eye twitch. Shuri tries to convince the other children, denying working with Isaac, but Nazar says that everyone saw how the baby dodged all the traps, and he himself could not do it. The boy notices a silver ring on Isaac's neck that Riley gave him, and points out this artifact to the others. Deciding that the ring must be impregnated with something, Nazar rips the rope from the baby's neck. Pleased with his action, the boy tells the other children that with this ring they will be able to dodge all traps. But Shuri mentally corrects Nazar, who did not even come close to guessing the purpose of the ring. Isaac doesn't pay attention to the others, calmly scratching his ear, and this behavior of his makes Shuri even more worried, because he already knows that Isaac is not the type to let others take anything away from him. Leaving Shuri and Isaac at the entrance, Nazar leads the other boys behind him, haughtily bidding Joshua farewell. The boy anticipates that it will be he, the heir to the Crimson Duke's family, who will be the one to bring the body of the Skeleton King. Having lost his vigilance, the boy steps on a tile which immediately falls down. Nizer doesn't have time to realize what's happening. Only his smile gets a little smaller, and everything around is immediately engulfed in flames, and Shuri even recoils from the heat. Dodging the heat of the flames, Shuri looks at Isaac suspiciously. The baby giggles contentedly and a little evilly, and Shuri begins to wonder if Isaac was using the other children as bait. With the traps disarmed and the other children eliminated, Isaac calmly rode on Shuri. The kid enjoys eliminating his rivals, looking down on them. However, not all the children entered the second vault with Nizer, and the remaining ones are now trailing behind Isaac, and this is stressing him out, and out of irritation, the kid grabs his brother's hair, almost tearing it out. The children following behind talk about Isaac as a child with a divine feeling. It's not for nothing that he comes from a family of saints. They admire the baby, and they call Nazer strange because he decided that the ring was magic, when in fact it was just an antique. Whisper teases the owner, telling him that others have realized his greatness, but this angers Isaac. However, Shuri, listening to the boy's speech, does not share their delight, mentally suggesting that they run away before it's too late, because Isaac is more terrible than any demon. Resigned to her fate, Shuri simply carries Isaac, but another boy appears on their way. He says that if a saint does exist, it must be someone like the younger Joshua, and then introduces himself as the second prince of the Julius kingdom. The boys on the side begin to whisper that this kingdom is located to the east of the Holy Empire of Helen, and their prince has received the blessing of the god. Isaac finds this information useful, as does the prince himself. But Shuri distracts the baby from his thoughts by telling him that they have arrived. In front of the children there are more doors, all ready to the third storage facility. Glowing balls appear in the air and a voice greets the candidates. Hooded figures emerge from the bright light and tell the children that they are on the memory floor. The robed and hooded figures look very much like angels. They have wings and divine weapons, and they ask children to show determination and courage. The boys are glad that they followed Isaac and not the red-haired boy, because now they will definitely be able to pass the test and get the main prize. But Shuri listens carefully to what the gatekeepers say. What he hears makes him confused. One of the hooded figures says that they only need to defeat them, the gatekeepers, and the children will receive glory. Isaac looks closely at the creatures, beginning to guess their nature, while the boys in the background say that they must fight them. The kid became convinced that he was right, having solved the gatekeeper's secret. He thinks it will be fun now. Isaac begins to babble and wave his arms vigorously. Shuri realizes that Isaac wants to do something and also reflects on the fact that Isaac's decisions have always been correct, which means the gatekeepers are lying. Shuri remembers how Isaac simply skipped the first vault, which was about choice. The second vault was related to calm, but Isaac was not calm at all. The third is related to memory, which means it is worth remembering what happened in the first two storages. While Shuri is thinking, the figures with wings are simply waiting for the children to act. Remembering everything that happened and the gatekeeper's words about the battle, Shuri comes to the conclusion that under no circumstances should she attack these creatures. Isaac commands the other candidates to step back. They obey, believing that the baby knows how to pass the test. Shuri is only amazed that this time Isaac made the right choice. Shuri mentally praises Isaac for his decision, still considering the baby a devil, but also not denying that the baby is still the descendant of a saint. Shuri is about to change her mind about Isaac, thinking that maybe he just couldn't understand the kid all this time. But Isaac is already preparing for another attack with a satisfied grin. Shuri is about to accept the fact that Isaac is willing to sacrifice himself to help others. But just then, Isaac launches a fire sphere into the face of one of the winged figures. The kid is absolutely pleased with himself, while Shuri is in a stupor. The gatekeeper was injured, but he did not let go of the weapon, and the children were told that they had made the wrong choice. In response to the toddler's attack, the gatekeeper throws fire at the other boys. The children are thrown back by the blast wave and scream for help. Shuri and Isaac stand aside and watch all this disgrace. Shuri is speechless, and Isaac is pleased with what was done. Shuri looks at Isaac with apprehension, once again calling him crazy. Isaac laughs evilly, having figured out the nature of the gatekeepers. The angel's guise has fallen from the gatekeepers, and in fact, they turn out to be ugly demons who tell the candidates that they were wrong to believe someone else's words. And Isaac is convinced of the correctness of his thoughts. These creatures are lying puppets created by the magic of 14 familiars. Isaac laughs, pointing at the puppets, and gleefully asks them to show the other boys how cruel life can be, while Shuri is once again forced to put up with the toddler's behavior. Fires are burning everywhere, and the testing room is filled with smoke and dust. The children try to dodge the attacks. They are scared. Some are crying. One of the children asks where these Joshuas are, and the second one answers that they were here a minute ago. At this time, Shuri and Isaac, as well as another boy, stand, covered by a holy spell of the 6th rank, giving invisibility. The child is surprised. Shuri, as always, is horrified by the actions of the kid, and only Isaac enjoys what is happening. Isaac happily remembers that it was his uncle who showed him the invisibility spell to use in a critical situation. The boy who also ended up under invisibility is the Prince of the Kingdom, Julius. He thanks Isaac for covering him with a spell as well, and the kid gives a thumbs up saying that it's nothing special. And immediately Isaac throws his silver ring, given to him by Rely, into the boy's hands, and he is surprised. The prince examines the ring and with tears of gratitude asks the boy if he is giving the ring because the boy cannot fight demons, to which Isaac only indifferently picks his ear. The prince thanks the baby with all his heart, promising to remember his kindness and tell his father about it, but the ring has already begun to glow with magic. The bright light that enveloped the child began to suck all the life force out of him, frightening Shuri, who was standing nearby. Whisper admires his master again, and the baby is happy with the ring's effect, because the prince had the greatest holy power. Isaac laughs evilly, satisfied with the result, and Shuri, looking at his terrifying smile, thinks about what kind of monster her uncle brought into their family. The other children desperately try to fight the puppets using holy power and all their knowledge. The demons pounce on the children, telling them that they must accept their punishment. The boys work together to defeat the gatekeepers using defensive and offensive magic. The child was already ready to cast an attack spell at the puppets, gathering a fireball in his hand. But suddenly he fell down, exhausted, enveloped in mana, and his partner was confused by what had happened. The dark-haired boy asks his friend what happened, but he has lost consciousness. While the dark-haired child tries to understand what is happening, the same silver ring, shrouded in a spell, approaches him, and as soon as the ring touched the boy, it sucked all the strength out of him, and in confusion, the puppets even stopped attacking. The demon left the exhausted children alone, looking around the room. He began to look to see if there were any others who had bought into the lie. A whisper tells the owner that the ring has absorbed the holy power of all the children. We see that he was the one who carried the ring from one child to another to collect their power. But Isaac points to the remaining candidates who still have holy power. The whisper goes to the remaining boys, who were about to be attacked by the demon. The boy fell to his knees right in front of the gatekeeper as soon as Whisper brought the ring to him. The second child was confused, not understanding what had happened. The demon was also puzzled by the situation, but did not stop attacking. Isaac mentally asks the children not to be offended by him, because the lying puppet does not attack neutralized enemies. And the kid thinks that it is better to lose consciousness from the fact that the holy power was sucked out of you than to be subjected to a physical attack. Whisper tells Isaac that everything is almost ready. But suddenly a fireball appeared, and Whisper wonders what it is. The fire immediately covered one of the gatekeepers. A spark from the burning demon hit Whisper, and he was also hurt. The child who came up looks straight at Shuri and Isaac, even though they are hidden by invisibility, and says that he finally found him. We see that it was Kaina who dealt with the puppet. He entered confidently, turned to Isaac, and the holy fire was still near him. Isaac, unlike Shuri, is not at all impressed by the boy from his dad's house. He only thought that he finally showed up, because he had not been seen since the beginning of the test. Shuri continues to look at the spell created by Kaina in amazement, calling him a genius. The invisibility has completely worn off the children. What Shuri was so surprised by was the huge firebird that was Kaina's holy spirit. And Shuri was shocked by the boy's ability to summon a holy spirit at such a young age. Kina tells Isaac that the baby surprised him, as Kina thought that he was the only one out of all the candidates who could defeat the demon. The son of the house, Barrett, asks if Isaac deliberately lured the other children into a trap. Kina is about to threaten the baby, but the boys, who have come to their senses, abruptly interrupt Kina, saying that he is wrong. The boys take turns telling that Isaac actually tried to pass the test for them and even told them which direction to go. They call Isaac their benefactor. Isaac himself doesn't understand why they think this way and says that they are out of their minds. And Whisper chuckles that this is what people call Stockholm Syndrome. Kina immediately makes a snide remark that boys should be ashamed to call themselves candidates for sainthood if they need the help of a baby. The dark-haired boy is outraged by Kina's words, answering him that he himself was hiding the whole time while the others were looking for traps, and speaks as if he had done a great deed. The other children pick up on the boy's speech, starting to whisper that Isaac is more like a saint, since Kina himself escaped all the trouble and they promise to tell their parents everything as soon as they get out of this place and want to ask their parents to follow Joshua's family. Shuri mentally protests that Isaac is actually sucking all the strength out of them, but she doesn't say anything out loud, and the baby silently watches all this, smiling happily. The dark-haired boy continues to defend Isaac, insisting that without him, everyone else would be in big trouble. The boy's speech is interrupted and he turns around abruptly at the noise behind him. A new fireball appeared in the hall, rising to the ceiling. The walls and floor of the storage room began to shake, frightening the children, who immediately stopped all arguing. And another gate appeared. The children decided that these were the doors to the next storage, which meant that the previous test was completed. The fireball hovered in front of the new gate, and a voice from the ball congratulated all the candidates on completing the test, and also said that he was the last gatekeeper before entering the main repository of relics. The voice then offers the children a choice, to take the treasure right here and finish the test, or to enter the vault. Kina looks at the ball with suspicion. One of the children immediately replies that naturally they want to enter the vault, but the gatekeeper interrupts him, reminding him that he must choose wisely. The voice again asks the question about choice, and the children are already doubting what is right. The gatekeeper adds that if the children can pass the test, they will find the treasures of the main vault, but if not, they will die. The children's mouths dropped open in fear, doubting their decision. Whisper tells Isaac that he recognizes the mana that is felt from the voice, and Isaac confirms the assistant's words, agreeing that it is a dragon. Isaac squints suspiciously, thinking that the words about death in the vault are definitely not a lie. The dark-haired boy says that he still wants to pass the test, and the second child picks up that they went through a lot before getting to this place, and they want the treasure from the main vault, because then they can become saints. The other candidates immediately repeat each other, and in the end, no one refuses the test. Everyone wants to get into the next storage. The voice agrees to conduct the test, since all the children are so determined. After the gatekeeper's words, everything around shook, frightening the children, and only Isaac and Whisper were sincerely happy about the start of the test. The fireball began to grow, filling the entire room with bright light. Stone chips began to fall from the walls, and the children froze in anticipation of the test. The boy standing closest to the others covered himself with a cloak to protect himself from the dust and light. The voice informs him that the final test is quite simple, and Isaac can no longer contain his joyful anticipation, dreaming of seeing his old body as soon as possible. Instead of a fireball, a huge stone statue of a god appeared, and a voice announced a test in which one must offer a prayer to one's god. The boys gathered closer, looking at the statue of the god. The voice, now coming from the statue, repeats the task of offering a prayer, adding that only those who have proven their faith will pass on. The children discuss whether it is too easy for the test to just kneel and pray. At this point, Isaac had already made a dissatisfied face, firmly deciding that he would never do what the statue said. Remembering the face of the real God that Isaac had to deal with in the past, he decides to never kneel before this bastard who deceived Isaac for hundreds of years, and in the end, tried to seal him. Finally making up his mind, the dark-haired boy steps forward, saying that there is nothing difficult in simply praying to his God. He kneels down and recites words of prayer, offering worship. The statue praises the boy for his diligent studies and says that he has passed the test. The child is happy, and the others immediately decide to follow his example. While everyone is busy with the test, Isaac jumps off Shuri's shoulders with a sly expression on his face. Shuri tries to stop Isaac by telling him to pray, but the kid kicks his brother in the leg, outraged at why on earth he should. Shuri fell down from the blow and is angry at Isaac while the toddler looks at the child who stepped forward. Kina came out in front of all the children and said that in the Holy See he was taught how to pray correctly. He shows others the correct posture for worshiping the Lord. The boys immediately chime in that they want to do the same. One of the children was confused and hesitated, but the voice immediately asked what they were waiting for, and if they changed their minds, death awaited them. Having come to his senses, The boy replies that he has not changed his mind and will definitely do what is required. The remaining children repeat after him and kneel down, but the statue turns its attention to Isaac, who is not going to kneel, and asks why. Isaac replies with irritation that he is not crazy enough to do such a thing. The other children turn to look at the little boy, asking what is wrong with him and if he has problems with his faith. The children whisper about rumors that Joshua's family is losing faith, and Shuri, standing in a prayer pose, mentally asks Isaac to stop disgracing the family name and just pray. But Isaac ignores all words and looks. Kina, smiling, thinks that everything is being recorded and the baby may lose the chance to become a saint. Kina starts praying again, reassured that Isaac is no longer a competitor, because even with his enormous talent, without faith, everything is useless. The statue tells Isaac that such behavior is highly disrespectful to the saint's family, to which the kid just brushes it off. He doesn't care. Isaac protests that he would rather die than kneel before this piece of shit, to which the statue falls silent. The kid tells the statue that it could kill him, and immediately feels pressure. With its power, the statue tries to force the baby to kneel by exerting magical pressure. But Isaac resists with all his might, not wanting to fulfill the will of the gatekeeper. Continuing to press Isaac with magic, the statue calls him a blasphemer and orders him to perish. And yet the baby does not give in, resisting the magic and mentally sending the statue to hell. Tired of enduring it, Isaac summons magic, intending to destroy the statue, although Whisper warns that it is dangerous. At the last moment, when Isaac is about to attack, the statue suddenly smiles, pleased with the baby's behavior. Not expecting to hear something like this, Isaac dispels the spell, looking up at the statue in surprise. Whisper also cannot understand what happened, but the gatekeeper informs that the little candidate has passed the test and can go further. Kina and the other children are stunned by what they hear. Jumping to her feet, Kina begins to shout that, following the will of the gatekeeper, everyone began to pray, but Isaac refused and passed, and this is not fair. The statue replies that only the baby showed his faith in God, and that is why they let him pass further. Isaac is in shock from what he heard. He does not understand what he did. The gatekeeper stops smiling and asks the children if they really don't understand why Isaac was the only one who was right, and then tells Kina that he knelt before a statue and not the god himself. The boy was confused by the gatekeeper's words. The statue continues to scold the children, asking if their faith is really idol worship. Shuri immediately understands what the gatekeeper is talking about. Even if the statue looks like their god, it is still an idol, and the children were deceived. Other candidates try to justify themselves by saying that the statue looks exactly like the Lord on holy images, although some object that the Holy Scriptures say that one should not worship statues. The gatekeeper asks the children to pay attention to the little boy, because even under the threat of death, he did not give in and kept the faith, and that is why only he can go further. Isaac stands there smirking at how it all turned out, and his assistant makes fun of him for his faith. But Isaac just shrugs it off. Kina turns angrily to Isaac and says she can't accept this. Kina tries to challenge the statue's decision, arguing that the baby can't even talk or walk, and there is no evidence that he is kneeling outside of his faith. Whisper says that the boy is partly right, but still Isaac did not want to kneel, and the baby nods in agreement. Trying to prove her point, Kina asks why Isaac doesn't have the stigmata if his faith is so strong. The little boy froze in confusion upon hearing about the religious sign. Kina says he has the stigmata, like any candidate for sainthood, but not Isaac. All the kids turn to Isaac, whispering among themselves after Kina's words. Smiling with smugness, Kina looks at the baby, mentally telling him to give up, because he can't be a candidate for sainthood without the stigmata. The statue ponders Kina's words, but in Isaac's defense, says that he does not have the stigmata because he is still a baby. The children look questioningly at the statue, not believing their ears. Tired of standing in one position, the statue suddenly begins to pick its nose, and the children watch in amazement. Kina screams that it doesn't make sense, but then asks the gatekeeper if he could have moved all this time. Ignoring the last question and continuing to pick his nose, the gatekeeper says that he is serious in his words. Isaac is too young for the stigmata and asks to trust him. Kina, and everyone else after him, begin to resent the fact that a child without a stigma can enter the vault and demand the same for themselves. But the gatekeeper tells them that they must realize that they are not special because of the religious mark on their body. The statue asks if everyone thinks the same and wants to get into the vault, and the children answer in the affirmative. The gatekeeper then promises to send all the candidates to the vault since they so desire, and the boys are glad that they will be allowed to enter. However, Shuri is confused that the gatekeeper agreed so easily, and the statue continues. Since they all want to jump into the fire like moths, then so be it, and this phrase immediately cools the enthusiasm of the candidates. Smiling nastily, the statue begins to dissolve into thin air, saying at the end that of course he will let everyone inside. When the gatekeeper disappeared, the door to the vault was opened, and a huge stream of dark energy poured out onto the children. The candidates immediately felt ill, had difficulty breathing, and began to feel nauseous. Although the gatekeeper had disappeared, his voice could still be heard in the hall, asking if the children could feel the mana emanating from the body of the Skeleton King, and calling everyone fools, showing the children their place, and the gatekeeper's voice also says that he is going to spare those who can bear this mana. But the boys consider what is happening to be unbearable torture. And only Isaac's eyes burn with thirst to quickly get his old body back. The suffocating dark aura doesn't bother him at all. The baby looks into the darkening passage of the vault, anticipating a meeting with his former body. Isaac didn't think he'd be able to reunite with his body after self-destructing in the divine realm. And now that he stands at the threshold of the vault, he's drooling with anticipation. Excited by the amount of mana leaking from the Skeleton King's body, Isaac rushes inside. The gatekeeper's voice asks the others to look at the face of the little boy who has proven his faith, and says that this is the face of a courageous warrior, although at this moment Isaac looks more like a madman than a warrior. The boys are surprised that Isaac's eyes even lit up with anticipation, and they don't understand what kind of child this is. The gatekeeper, once again transformed into a fireball, tells the candidates that it is not too late, and those who are unable to smile in the face of death can turn around and leave, while the children still linger before the entrance to the vault. The gatekeeper promises the candidates permission to choose a treasure from the second vault if they surrender now. While Shuri looks at the gate of the main vault in horror and wonders how he will be able to pass through such powerful dark mana. The other children also do not want to die and think about choosing the most beautiful item from the second storage. But Kina continues to be stubborn, refusing the treasures of the second vault and insisting on going further. Trying to look even better in the eyes of the other children, Kina confidently asks the gatekeeper not only to let him in, but also to activate all the traps. The children are shocked by Kina's madness, and the gatekeeper asks if the child is sure of his father's words. Having become completely emboldened, Kina continues her speech, saying that no one in history has managed to carry out the body of the Skeleton King, not even Saint Melissa. The voice asks if Kina knows anything about the third vault, and the boy mentally says that he knows for sure that Melissa would not allow anyone to die in the vault, which means all the traps are a preventative measure. Having finally stopped seeing the boundaries of reason, Kina tells the gatekeeper that she does not want to be considered a coward who passed the test without problems, and asks him to return the vault to its original and most dangerous state, so that it will be valued higher than the saint. Isaac just looks at the ranting child with indifference, deciding for himself that this one has also gone crazy. But the gatekeeper had already agreed with Kina's arguments, activating all the traps with the words that it would now be easier to identify the saint. The boy pushes Kina forward, saying that he can go alone, he doesn't have to take them with him. But suddenly the children begin to rise into the air, confused by what is happening. Inside the vault, there is a skeletal hand on a pedestal. All the children who were transported inside cannot withstand the mana coming from the hand. They become nauseous and fall to their knees. Only Isaac is delighted by the chaos that is happening, but Whisper asks to look away. The whisper draws Isaac's attention to the skeleton's hand. The assistant says that here it is, the body of the owner. Isaac is happy to see the remains of his body, which has been absorbing energy in this storage for over 100 years. The other children also look at the bones, surprised that just one hand can emit so much dark mana. Isaac mentally corrects them that it is not the entire hand, but only the thumb. The baby focuses on the bone, realizing that it is not even the entire finger, but a part of it, and all the other bones are fake. The dark energy around the skeleton's hand thickens more and more, and a moment later a demon appears in front of the children. The boys are terrified. They scream in fear. They all thought that after the second vault the demons should no longer appear here, but the gatekeeper reminds them that they themselves asked to remove all protection. The kid tries to take a closer look at the newly appeared demon, recognizing him. The demon, having fully manifested himself, calls the children insects who dared to desire the body of his master. The dark-haired boy yells at Kina, blaming him for what is happening and demanding that he take responsibility. Kina calmly tells them to trust him. He will make sure that everyone gets out of there with the treasure. In Kina's mind, she remembers the 14 familiars, the elite, who were trained by the Skeleton King, but considers them fools who were captured by the Pope's family. Standing in front of the demon, Kina mentally prepares to cast the prepared spell against such creatures and collect all the treasures of the vault. The boy's eyes begin to glow yellow, and he orders the monster to fall to its knees. The demon shuddered from the spell and, roaring, turned to the boy. The other candidates are impressed that Kina used the light of his father's family, but Isaac is indifferent. Kina is pleased with the result, glad that the spell worked, but his face immediately changes when the demon addresses him, as if he recognized him. The familiar immediately rushes at Kina, focusing all its attention on him. The boy, in horror, tries to cover himself with his hands, and the demon sees Kina as a threat because he dared to covet the body of his king. The focus then shifts to the street, to the entrance to the relic storage facility. Adults anxiously await their children, wondering what is going on inside, since the connection has been interrupted. A servant runs up to the crowd of parents and shouts that a great misfortune has happened. The demon seal in the third vault has been destroyed. Riley and Simon's eyes widened in fear. Simon asked his friend if this was the demon who was one of the 14 familiars, but Riley remained silent. In his mind, Riley fears for the children, because if a demon from among the familiars has entered the matter, then everyone inside is in great danger. The elders ask what happened to their colleagues who went with the children as guards, but the servants reply that they disappeared while trying to disarm the traps, and the children are now in trouble. The adults continue their conversation, deciding how to quickly get the children out of the vault and stop the test, because the little candidates definitely won't be able to handle the monster. At this time, a portal begins to glow behind their backs. The light from the portal grows brighter, forcing everyone present to cover their eyes. Riley is surprised that the relic vault is opening. Everyone is wondering what that intense light is coming from the portal. The servants ask everyone to move away from the portal because it could be dangerous. Dark mana could leak out. One of the elders, pointing his finger at the portal, says that he does not feel the presence of a demon there. The female advisor wonders if the demon has been defeated, while behind her, the father rejoices, thinking that it was Kina who did it. Simon asks Riley which child it could be, while the others whisper that it must be Kina Barrett, as expected from Dad's family. Riley just purses her lips, worried about Isaac and not thinking about anything else. The elder congratulates the cardinal, and several other families praise Kina for a result worthy of the strongest candidate for sainthood. Dad says with satisfaction that Kina has done a great job. The cardinal gloats to Joshua's family, thinking that their disobedience to the papal family is now over. He sarcastically remarks, looking at Riley standing nearby, that since Kina now has the body of the Skeleton King, Joshua will have to bow his heads. Pleased with the outcome, Dad Hirej Barrett is confident that Joshua's family streak will be broken. Someone shouts that the children are coming out of the vault, and Riley and the cardinal look ahead. Dad with a victorious smile and Riley with excitement. Riley doesn't care about winning. He just wants Isaac and Shuri to be okay. The first shadows of children emerging can be seen in the portal. There are people standing in front of the portal, greeting their children after the test. The children run up to their families in tears. Riley walks around and examines everyone, noticing that many of the children are wounded, but there are no serious injuries. Riley, Asili, and Simon are still waiting, and behind their backs, people are saying that the children who entered the third vault have not returned yet. They could have gotten into trouble. Riley, hearing these conversations, becomes more and more nervous. The servants announced that the last group of children was approaching, and Asili and Riley focused all their attention on the portal. The candidates emerged from the vault completely exhausted and emaciated, and their parents immediately began calling them by name. Simon and Gowel ran towards Armin and Shuri as fast as they could. Only Riley remained standing and waiting. Gowel hugged his son to his chest, and the boy hugged him back. Gowel asks if Shuri is okay, if there are any wounds, and Asili and Riley look at the boy, becoming increasingly worried. Realizing that Shuri is alone, Riley is horrified and wonders where Isaac is. Riley looks around the clearing and all the children again, looking for the baby with her eyes. At this time, the cardinal sees his son and calls him, making a displeased face. He asks the boy what he has in his hand, but Kina is in no hurry to show the thing, fearing the cardinal's wrath. He starts mumbling, trying to find an excuse for not bringing the Demon King's body. The cardinal grows increasingly angry at Kina, asking him who told him to bring such a useless thing, and a large glowing ball appears behind the man. The light came closer and grew larger, and everyone present raised their heads, not understanding what was happening. The man pointed up, shouting for everyone to look up. A huge glowing wolf appeared in the sky above the field, holding a baby in its teeth. Riley's jaw dropped at what he saw, and everyone else also realized that Isaac was in the wolf's mouth. The baby smiles smugly, proudly folding his arms across his chest. Carefully holding the baby by his clothes, the wolf lands in the clearing. Riley, Asili, and several other adults rush to meet him. Asili asks Riley if the wolf is not the dragon that guarded the relic vault. Riley mentally confirms that this is indeed the case. This is a young holy dragon, the guardian of the relics. While the adults are talking, the wolf majestically descends to the ground. Now everyone can take a closer look at the wolf. The sacred beast has 3 eyes filled with holy power, and although in form it resembles a wolf, its spirit belongs to the holy dragon. Riley looks at the beast in awe, remembering how the matriarch, deeply connected to the dragons, called upon it to guard the relics. The very existence of such a beast is very noble. Riley's thoughts are interrupted by an incomprehensible sound, and he raises his head. Isaac has a bone sticking out of his mouth, which he sucks on with pleasure and smacking sounds. The elder is horrified, and the knight standing behind him asks what the baby has in his mouth. Upon closer inspection of the toddler's happily sparkling face, the adults realize that Isaac is drooling on the remains of the skeleton king. One elder shouts in shock that you can't just put something like that in your mouth, and the second one is so happy that his smile is wider than his mustache, because Isaac finally brought the body of the skeleton king. Watching this whole scene, the father calls his son in a cold voice, and he shudders from the cardinal's tone. Barrett asks Kina if he gave the skeleton king's body to the baby. Dad says in a disappointed voice that this is not a smart tactic, and he continues, looking at Riley standing next to him, that it was rather the mercy of a saint to save the face of the owner of the house. But the wolf abruptly interrupts Dad's speech, telling him that none other than the baby laid claim to the body of the skeleton king. And Isaac smiles from ear to ear, holding the bone in his teeth. The cardinal's face immediately changes, and Kina shrinks even more from shame and fear. We are shown a flashback, going back to the moment when Kina used the holy spell against the demon, and his face when he realized that the holy spell didn't work. The demon stands unharmed after Kina's spell and looks at him with anger. The demon's body exudes dark mana. The children are scared and don't know what to do. The familiar rushes towards the candidates, intending to kill them. The boys scatter, but Kina stands frozen in place, unable to move from horror. There is an explosion and stones fly in all directions. A blue glow appears. The children look up and realize that they are under a protective barrier. The spell extends from the baby's hand and everyone else sees it. Isaac rushes towards the remains of the skeleton king as fast as he can while the others stand frozen under the protective barrier dome. The demon is furious that small insects dared to covet his precious king. The familiar is about to hit the baby, who is approaching the remains. But Isaac, enraged, calls the guard a fool for failing to recognize his master and swings his arm to strike back. A cloud of magical dust rises, hiding what is happening from prying eyes. At this point, the dragon interrupts the story, and everyone gathered discusses that the dragon would not lie, and also wonders what Kina did. Riley addresses the dragon, saying it was too dangerous. Explaining, he continues that 14 familiars are not the kind of demons that children can handle and asks why the dragon removed the seal. Grinning, the wolf says that it was that blonde boy who asked to remove the seals. Kina shudders, and the aura around the cardinal thickens, becoming increasingly dark. The other children immediately confirm the dragon's words, saying that it was Kina who asked to remove the seals and also forcibly dragged the other children with him to the third storage. The adults look at the cardinal and the white-haired boy with condemnation, reproaching them for their actions and asking how someone from the Pope's family could have done this, since other children could have suffered. People keep saying that if Isaac hadn't defeated the demon, everything could have ended badly. And they also whisper that Joshua's family child defeated his dad's child, and this makes the man extremely angry. The crowd continues to spread various rumors, praising Joshua's family, and Riley looks at Isaac with pride, mentally praising him for the great work he has done. All the elders slowly approach Isaac, who managed to climb onto the wolf's scruff, and with sweet smiles ask him to spit out the bone. But the baby only purses his lips and waves off the elders, who are surprised why the child is so strong. While the elders' battered hands tremble from the baby's blows, Isaac settles comfortably on the wolf's back, continuing to chew on the bone and thinking that he has absorbed a huge amount of mana. The female advisor, turning to Riley, says what a great man Isaac is, and that the matriarch will be glad to hear it. The woman also smiles terribly, dreaming of how, with the bone they have obtained, they will track down the Skeleton King, find his soul, and destroy it. Isaac doesn't like what he hears at all, and he stops being happy. The kid felt a chill as he realized why they wanted the remains of his former body. Like zombies, the elders reach out to the baby, asking for the bone. They offer Isaac to track down the Skeleton King and tear him apart, which terrifies the kid. The mustachioed elder says with a happy smile that they will now be able to resolve a century and a half of grievance, and asks Isaac for a bone. Unwilling to give up his loot, Isaac swallows the bone, causing the elders' eyes to pop out of their sockets in shock. They look in shock at Isaac, who is calmly picking his teeth. Meanwhile, the dragon, having released the baby to the ground, flies away from the people, calling them crazy and hoping never to meet them again. The next day, we see a beautiful room in Joshua's estate. In this room, the elders are picking at something with a stick, searching. Not finding what they are looking for, they fall to their knees and clutch their heads, asking why it won't come out, and we see that they are rummaging through the baby's excrement. Isaac, sitting next to them, mentally tells them that they can search all day, they still won't find it. And then Isaac is distracted from the elders, remembering what happened in the relic storage, and it worries him very much. When he hit the familiar, it immediately flew to the side. As he fell, the demon asked if it was really him, his master, because the news of the king's death had long since spread in their world, and this information greatly surprised the baby. Bleeding, the familiar is glad that its master has returned alive. As the demon disappears, he says that he wants to serve his master and mutters incoherently about capturing something. Isaac, realizing that he had rushed things, asks the monster to speak more clearly before he dies and needs answers to his questions. But it was too late. The kid wonders if those who captured the demon were from his father's family. He wants to check it out. But they prevent him from thinking by shoving a bottle under his nose. With a worried face, Riley shoves a bottle at Isaac and loudly asks him to poop, and this all brings Whisper to hysterical laughter. The elders ask for more laxatives and stronger ones. Isaac presses his lips together with all his might, and Whisper can't stop laughing. The elder bites his nails, afraid that the matriarch will find out and want to cut Isaac open to get the bone. Riley tells the elder that everything will be fine, although he himself is more worried than the others. But then Riley remembers that the matriarch ripped open one of her sons, and she might do the same to her grandson. Now the elder and Riley are biting their nails together out of fear. Confused, Whisper asks the owner if Melissa has gone on a pilgrimage. Isaac confirms that she has, and it will take her time to return. The kid tells the assistant that he needs to absorb all the mana before Melissa returns and escape, at which point Howl enters the room. Gowl turns to Riley, telling him to hurry, and everyone else also turns to look at the newcomer. Howl reports that Riley is being summoned by the matriarch, which surprises Isaac. Riley is shocked that her mother has already arrived, as she has never returned from a pilgrimage so quickly before. Isaac is angry that Melissa came back early because of him, ruining his plans. He checks how the mana absorption is going and understands that the process is not complete, and this is bad. The baby is terrified because knowing Melissa, she will definitely perform an autopsy on him. The door opens and the attention of those present switches to a pile of golden treasures. The elders are impressed that so many gifts were sent for Isaac. Riley let out a breath when he realized it wasn't Melissa who had come, but Howl who had laughed at him. Howl jokes that Melissa only sent a message. He didn't say she arrived. Isaac gets angry at his uncle, calling him bad names. The captain of the knights reports that the Pope also sent gifts. The elders immediately start spitting and tell the knight to sell everything, but the captain asks him to speak more quietly. Otherwise, the Pope's messengers will hear. Everyone turns to look at the newcomer when he says that Dad sent gifts as a sign of apology and favor to Joshua's family. The messenger approaches the assembled adults with a polite smile and takes a box out of his clothes, unmistakably guessing that no one is delighted with Dad's gifts. But the messenger was sure that they would definitely like this gift and opened the box in front of Riley, conveying the cardinal's words that this would greatly help Isaac. The elders did not expect to see such a gift. The box contained an order called the Triple Crown. The kid makes a face and asks what this thing is, and Whisper replies that it is a disgusting thing, a medal with his dad's seal. The adults are talking. Panic is on their faces. They did not expect to receive a medal from Dad, and the messenger just continues to smile politely and wait. The messenger turned to Rely, who flinched. Dad's man asks Rely to take the medal and give it to Isaac, and this proposal throws everyone off balance. Isaac looks at Rely, who hesitates in confusion. The kid does not understand why the gift is being given to his uncle if the medal is for him. Rely trembles, asking the messenger if his father really asked him to give the medal to him and not to Isaac, and the man answers in the affirmative. With a hypocritical smile, the messenger reports that he was ordered to see if Rely personally received the gift. Rely clenched his teeth from tension. The advisor yells at the dad's man if he is in his right mind to give away what belongs to Isaac to another family member. The advisor points a finger at the envoy, asking why he is giving the medal to another if he knows it symbolizes the death of the recipient. Isaac and his assistant were left speechless at what they heard. The messenger continues to say with a smile, as if the Pope's intentions should not be misunderstood, the medal was ordered to be given to Rely only because Isaac was still too young. But the elder does not calm down, continuing to point out the offensive gestures on the part of the cardinal, asking what kind of ribbon is on the medal then. The medal has a sunflower on the ribbon, symbolizing a dead person, and the elder insists that the Pope's people should know this. The female advisor screams angrily, cursing the Pope and his house for the eternal mockery of Joshua's curse. Gowl tries to calm the situation and calm the elders, asking them to take their time, but the advisor asks Gowl in response how one can calm down in such a situation. Howell tries to make the argument that the scandal could look like open hostility towards the Pope's family, and that would not benefit Joshua's family. To himself, Howell thinks that the cardinal chose a very humiliating way to tell Joshua to know his place, and although Howell himself is close to the cardinal's family, even he considers such an act indecent. In his mind, Howell is glad that Rely and Isaac will not be able to achieve heights. This is for the benefit of Howell, but out loud the man asks Rely to accept the gift and be grateful. However, Rely objects to his brother. Isaac is tired of watching all this and decides that this won't do. The messenger is puzzled, not understanding what happened, but a blue flame appeared on the medal. The fire quickly grew, spreading to the man's hands, and he threw the box away, covering his face with his hands. Howell stared at the fire in fear. The flame rose to the ceiling, turning into a huge ball. Joshua's entire family looked up at the light, amazed at the appearance of the holy flame, and the messenger just sits on the floor, bent over in pain over his burnt hands. The messenger, trembling with fear, remembers the medal, worrying about what happened to it. Isaac babbles loudly and the elders turn to look at him, noticing blue flames coming from his hands. Isaac sits pleased with himself, continuing to maintain the spell. The adults are surprised that it was he who created the fire. The messenger jumped to his feet and shouted, asking what this meant. The medal was presented by the Pope himself. Is Joshua really going to rebel? The elders, with angry faces, answer the man that it was just a child, and ask a counter-question whether the messenger wants to accuse them of deliberate harm. Rely holds up the medal, saying that the accident happened before the baby received the gift, so he suggests pretending the gift never happened. The messenger is shocked by Rely's proposal, asking if he is in his right mind. Rely shows the man the raised medal and asks if they should accept it, even though it has melted from the baby's flame. The elders whisper how it could have happened that the medal melted, and the envoy is horrified by what happened. The Pope's man asks to give him the medal, trying to justify that he brought the wrong medal. But the sacred flame lights up again on the messenger, and he stops halfway from Rely. The elders happily play with the baby and pull his cheeks, praising him for loving to play. But Isaac mentally threatens them that if they don't let him go, he will set them on fire too. The messenger rubs his scorched bottom, realizing that he is powerless. The Pope's man runs away, shouting that they are cursed Joshua, and the elders laugh maliciously after him. The elders honor Isaac for his actions, which have made their souls lighter, and one of them asks Howell to get rid of the vile medal. The elder laughs, wishing Melissa could see the face of this papal sycophant, and praises Rely for using the holy flame. But Rely doesn't understand what they're talking about. The elder quietly asks Rely not to pretend, confident that it was he who placed the sacred flame on the child. But Rely, thoughtfully scratching his cheek, asks if it wasn't the elders who did this. The advisors are shocked. Their joy has turned to surprise. They ask Rely if he cast the spells when the baby entered the vault, but Rely says that he only cast invisibility magic. Everyone turns to look at the baby. remembering that Isaac used quick-step magic, and Riley is even more surprised that Isaac knows how to use such a spell. At this time, the baby, as usual, indifferently scratches his ear, despite the surprise of the adults from his knowledge of all these holy spells. We see a secret scripture, a treasure that allows us to instantly learn and cast all the spells contained in the book. Isaac is pleased with himself for taking this book from the vault. Even though it is weaker than the skeleton demon's flame, it still turned out to be useful. The elders try to figure out the situation, wondering if Isaac's mother could have used divine spells, but the female advisor says that the baby's mother does not wield fire. She is the complete opposite. The elders come to the conclusion that Isaac is a genius who learned to read before he could talk, like his grandmother Melissa. But the little boy doesn't like all the fuss around him. Asili interrupts the elders' conversations by asking if it isn't more surprising that the baby was able to destroy his father's blessing. The elders' eyes immediately lit up and they wanted to know if this was true. The elder asks to bring him the medal. He wants to personally check this information, and Relai looks at the box from this medal, reporting that there is no medal. The elder is surprised by Relai's words. The old man shouts that the medal was definitely there, but Gowl behind him says that he threw the medal away. Everyone looks at Howl in confusion, and he reminds them that they themselves ordered to get rid of this nasty thing. The elders argue among themselves that this should not have been said and ask to gather people to search. Gowl only sighs. The man thinks to himself that the baby managed to melt his father's medal, which is supposedly made of non-meltable metal, and he doesn't want the elders to see it, so he hid the medal in his pocket. Howl reasons that without evidence, the elders will not be able to confirm Isaac's talent. A few days later, west of the Joshua Duchy, Patriarch Eli Joshua stands on a rock and looks into the water. He tells his knights that the mansion is close and they cannot relax. But suddenly he notices something in the water. Then we see Joshua's estate again. The elders still don't understand why the skeleton king's bone won't come out. And the happy baby sits surrounded by a mountain of bottles, having stuffed himself with food containing laxatives. The elders are in despair, because Isaac drank 300 bottles of laxative and ate 500 fruits from Julius's house. The baby only burps, mentally rejoicing that the fruits were tasty. Besides, they increase closeness with the holy beasts. Isaac is glad that the holy beasts help in battle, which means he will need them when he wants to blow the Pope and the gods to smithereens. The kid understands that there must be such an animal in Joshua's house too, and immediately sees a tail outside the window. Isaac is surprised by the appearance of the beast. The holy beast slowly floats in the air outside Isaac's room window, and we learn that the holy beast of Joshua's house is the holy whale. Isaac hears someone outside the door saying that they need to wait and attend the feast first. But the door suddenly opens and the patriarch enters the room, followed by his knight. All the elders immediately bow before him and greet the patriarch. Isaac looks at the patriarch and realizes that this is his grandfather. The kid loves how much his grandfather radiates the power of survival. Isaac has a good feeling about this. Riley rushes forward to shield the baby and asks his father to wait a little longer and not to cut the baby's stomach open. But Isaac tells his uncle not to worry, because he would never cut it open for anything in the world. The patriarch silently points his finger at the baby and Riley turns to Isaac. In a stern voice, the grandfather orders the baby to be sent into the flames, causing Riley's jaw to drop and Isaac to be stupefied. Riley continues to defend Isaac, and the baby thinks that he couldn't have misinterpreted the meaning of survival and wonders why they suddenly want to burn him, while the baby is grateful that his uncle is on his side. Riley says that Isaac is too small to enter the flames, and the baby doesn't like it because it sounds like he's going to get burned anyway. Riley asks his father to come to his senses, and Howl, hurrying to them, says that this is too great a reward for Isaac. Isaac doesn't understand why the flame should be a reward, but Riley continues to chatter, and Isaac learns that with the sacred flame, the baby can become stronger, and of course, they can remove the bone from Isaac's body. But Riley continues to beg his father to wait a little longer, and Howl grumbles that the child can simply be cut open. Then the uncle suggests throwing the baby into water instead of fire. It's better than fire. Isaac is outraged, calling them all a crazy family. Gowl, on the contrary, asks the father not to send the child into fire or water, because these are the secret treasures of Joshua, which were used to raise the saint, and the snotty baby is not worthy of them. Isaac looks at his older uncle and realizes that everything he opposes is good for Isaac. Howl tries to shift the focus onto his son, saying that it was Shuri who defeated the demon in the vault. But Riley disagrees, reminding him that it was Isaac who did it. Howl says that the dragon could have been mistaken, because a baby who couldn't even walk couldn't defeat the demon. But Riley asks his brother not to tempt fate and not to go too far, and Riley also reminds that Isaac burned the medal sent by his dad. The patriarch searches for something in his inner pocket while his sons argue. Gowl says there is no evidence, but the patriarch interrupts him, asking about the medal. Eli takes a melted medal out of his pocket and asks if this is what his children are talking about. We are told a little bit of history, which says that the Pope is the only one who has a connection with heaven. And the object that is imbued with the Pope's blessing is the blessed gold from which the medal was made. The patriarch holds the melted award in his hand, and the kid wonders how he was able to melt it if he couldn't do it as the Demon King. Isaac wonders if he has become more powerful in his new body. Reli asks his father how he was able to find the medal, and the patriarch replies that he simply picked it up along the way. It was at the bottom of the lake. Riley praises Isaac in front of his father, saying how powerful the kid is to be able to melt his dad's symbol, while Isaac proudly thinks that now Joshua can prove that they are stronger than Dad. Riley says that Isaac will be able to withstand the flames of the Skeleton King, and the elder adds that the baby will become an excellent demon hunter. Hearing their conversation, Isaac looks away. Riley explains how many townspeople have suffered from the Demon King, and the elder agrees, fearing the coming of a new era of the Skeleton King. The whisper tells Isaac that the imposters, pretending to be him, are causing mayhem, and the kid wonders who it could be, even if it is to Isaac's advantage now. Riley screams, asking his father to remember what happened 70 years ago when the Skeleton King broke into Joshua's house and destroyed everything. Isaac was very surprised to hear this information. Riley becomes enraged, remembering the events of the past and the words of the demon, who promised to interrupt the line of the saint. The whisper reminds Isaac that he died 150 years ago, and therefore could not have caused trouble 70 years ago. But Isaac is now pondering the blood curse that Riley spoke of, now understanding how Joshua has such a long lifespan. While the kid reassures himself that the average demon's curse is just a toy, Isaac is about to suppress the curse with his mana while the adults continue to develop the theme. The female counselor says that although the curse does not kill them, family members suffer from erectile dysfunction or stunted growth, and the man adds that many also go bald very early. Upon hearing about the baldness, Isaac becomes enraged, promising to kill the bastard, and Whisper adds fuel to the fire by saying that baldness can also be hereditary. The patriarch approaches the baby and examines him. Eli notices Isaac's red eyes and realizes that he is cursed too. The patriarch tells Riley and the elder that fire and water are not enough, and Isaac becomes nervous and anxious about such speeches. The patriarch says that he will give the baby the Holy Spirit, and these words unsettle everyone present. Isaac is surprised, but this is something he really wants to get. The Holy Spirit can only be received by one's own free will, and Isaac needs a very high rank to get even with the gods. The kid was already dreaming about receiving the Holy Spirit and slapping the gods on the back of the head. Howl wants to argue with his father, saying that the Holy Spirit is too much for a baby. Howl is outraged because the Holy Spirit is transmitted to those who brought glory to the house of Joshua, and Isaac did nothing for this. Isaac hisses tiredly, mentally calling his uncle a donkey who started playing the barrel organ again. The patriarch addresses Gowl in a stern voice, and he asks what he personally did when Dad sent the so-called gift. Eli scolds his son, saying that the heavens dared to insult in their own home, and Howl delivered their people back safe and sound and now protects them. The patriarch is unhappy with his son because he has done nothing but belittle his nephew and is now trying to hold on to Isaac. Howl has nothing to say to his father's words. Isaac gloats as the patriarch scolds Howl, saying that even animals protect their family and the house of Joshua stands on the principle of protecting the weak. Howl is horrified when his father sternly reprimands him that the little child is helping them defend their honor and they all must take care of the baby. Then the patriarch demands to call everyone from the main house. He wants to give Isaac a blessing. A few days later, Joshua's main house. Riley rushes to her father and Isaac, asking what her father is planning if he doesn't just want to give the child a blessing. The patriarch replies that if you simply place the baby in fire or water to extract the Demon King's particle, the child may be harmed. The anti-demonic properties of the fire and water of the temple are too strong and can harm the baby, and he will never master the rites of exorcism. Riley says that then Isaac will not be able to rise above the 5th rank priest. The patriarch says that he will give Isaac a choice between fire, water, and the Holy Spirit. This will be enough to test. Gowl is happy with his father's decision because it means that no one will give the Holy Spirit to a baby for no reason. Eli places 3 balls of different colors on the table in front of the child and asks him to choose. Eli, watching his nephew, mentally asks him to choose a white ball. Each of the balls contains the energy of water, flame, or spirit. But no matter how much Eli prayed in his mind, the baby chose the red ball. Isaac holds the red ball up, indicating that the choice has been made. Howl smiles slyly and asks the upset Eli not to be too sad. But all conversations are interrupted when the room is filled with a reddish light. The ball Isaac chose begins to crack, and then a huge fireball bursts out. The elders are confused. They are surprised that it was not the flame of the temple. A spirit appeared before everyone present. Riley and his brother's eyes widened in surprise. The spirit that appeared looked at the people with displeasure, and the first thing the spirit did was to direct its fire at the elders. Gowl immediately asks his father why there was a Holy Spirit in the red balloon, but the patriarch tells his son not to make noise. Eli reminds his son that he never said there was only one Holy Spirit, and Howl is confused. The patriarch says Joshua's family roots are in the water, but Isaac was able to create a flame that melted the Pope's medal, so Eli hid a trap. But Isaac still made the right choice, and now a spirit has appeared, although not the one the patriarch expected. The spirit looks at Eli with anger and calls out his name in fury. The spirit's eyes glow with rage, and he screams that Eli is crazy for daring to summon him, a spirit of royal rank, to the human world. The elders are terrified of the spirit's wrath. The Holy Spirit is gaining more and more strength for the attack. And then he unleashes fire magic, directing it at Riley and the others. The elders try to run away from the fire. Gowl covers himself with his hands, but Riley and the patriarch just stand calmly in place. While running away, the elders say that protective spells must be used. Howl asks his father why he called the royal rank if he doesn't want to burn all of Joshua's lands. Eli replies that it wasn't him and points his finger at the baby. Isaac is shocked by this statement. But the grandfather is happy with Isaac and proud of his grandson. This is evident from his smile. However, Isaac has no time for his happy grandfather. He simply doesn't understand what's going on. The summoned spirit continues to rage, frightening everyone present with fire. Isaac doesn't understand why the king rank appeared if he only poured a drop of holy power to summon the middle rank. The whisper asks what the owner is made of, and the baby thinks with horror of what he could have caused if he had really put in the effort. Isaac examines the summoned spirit and realizes that the flame the spirit has is anti-demonic. Such flames transform mana into holy power. Whisper happily says that this will help Isaac a lot, and he agrees with the assistant's words. But Isaac sees how furious the spirit is and doesn't understand how he can subdue it, while the spirit continues to destroy and set fire to everything around it. The whisper hesitantly tells the owner that he needs to be subdued somehow. Isaac remembers with irritation that royal-ranked spirits are closely connected to the heavens, and that Isaac doesn't have enough power to get too close yet. The elder, who has already suffered considerably from the spirit's tricks, tearfully asks the patriarch to send the crazy spirit back, because this is a terrible spirit of royal rank, which even the gods have rejected. But the patriarch calmly says that if he were condemned for the color of his hair, he would also have broken ties with the gods, and it all started because of stupid prejudices against black hair. But the spirit launches another portion of fire at the elder, forcing him to remain silent. The spirit speaks menacingly to Eli, asking what he was thinking, calling him to the ritual of submission. But the patriarch calmly points to Isaac and tells the spirit that the baby called him. The spirit looks at the baby with distrust, and Isaac begins to smile happily at him. The spirit becomes even more angry, calling Eli a madman who easily sacrificed a baby to summon him. But the patriarch denies everything. The spirit says that even if Joshua's house is falling apart, he should not do this to the newborn. But Isaac's manic expression cools his spirit, and he asks what's happening to him. Isaac only thinks about how he wants to get this spirit. Since he is so capable and hostile to the gods, the kid wants to use the spirit as a filter for mana. The spirit says that since Eli won't confess, he will check the baby himself. If he really summoned the spirit himself through the ritual of subjugation, he will withstand the attack. Isaac continues to sit with a longing face and stretch his hands toward the spirit. The fireball hits right where the baby was sitting, and Riley rushes towards him in panic. And the spirit, pleased with itself, says that it is better for the child to meet a peaceful end at its hands. But Isaac seemed not to notice the attack, crawling towards the spirit with the same blissful face and laughing. The patriarch asks whether the spirit is convinced that it was this young brat who called him here, and the spirit has nothing to object to. The patriarch tells the spirit to choose whether to make a pact with the child or to refuse and accept the punishment. The spirit is angry, he didn't expect this. Still resisting the agreement, the spirit says that due to his rank, he is not afraid of punishment, and since he is here, he will burn down Joshua's house so that he can live in freedom. Pointing a finger at the patriarch, the spirit threatens Eli, telling him to watch his lands burn. While the spirit is gloating, Isaac crawls up behind him and opens his mouth wide. Not letting the spirit finish all the insults he was about to utter, Isaac takes the spirit into his mouth, horrifying everyone present. The spirit screams and calls the baby a brainless idiot, but Isaac only sucks the spirit contentedly while Riley screams at the baby that he can't eat it and that he shouldn't swallow it this time. Hearing this, the spirit is confused. He is embarrassed by the words about this time. While in the child's mouth, the spirit screams, asking how they are even going to take care of this child and calling them crazy. The spirit continues to shout threats and says that he is ready to retreat now, but they will all pay later, and the baby continues to slobber on the spirit with delight. The spirit tries to teleport, satisfied with its decision, and says goodbye to the people. But then nothing happens and everyone sits in confusion. Isaac continues to hold the spirit in his mouth, and Whisper chuckles at him. The spirit cannot understand why he cannot be transported. Dark mana suddenly flowed through his hands. Isaac giggles and holds his breath, and he scolds the kid with different words. The patriarch, as if nothing had happened, calmly informs the spirit that the baby swallowed the demon king's thumb, and the spirit indignantly asks what they are feeding this child. Holy spirits are the purest beings of the entire Saint faction. They literally embody holy energy and are weak to dark mana. The spirit tries to cover its face so as not to inhale mana, because it has already begun to lose strength. The spirit asks to stop the baby. Isaac laughs happily, and Eli just scratches his ear, saying how sorry he is. The patriarch says that the demon king's energy is too strong and no one can get close to it, but the spirit doesn't believe in these tales at all. The patriarch sits down closer to Isaac and tells the spirit that if he stays with his grandson and cleanses all of the skeleton king's dark mana, then Eli will send him back. But the spirit is indignant, asking what Eli was smoking and if he knows who he is dealing with, to which the patriarch suggests that the spirit feel free to stay and be eaten. The spirit says that they are all crazy and that is why he hates them all, and he would gladly make a cutlet out of Joshua if they did not belong to the family of the saints. Isaac runs his tongue over the spirit's face inside his mouth, cutting off his threats. And then he begins to lick the spirit even harder, driving him into hysterics. Surrendering, covered in drool, the spirit screams to leave him with this child for 4 days. That will be enough time. The patriarch is surprised that so little time is needed. Eli turns and leaves, ordering that the gates of the eastern castle be opened and the child and spirit be placed there, and that no one be allowed in until the cleansing is complete. Riley and Howl want to argue about the eastern castle, but their father does not allow them. The patriarch sternly tells the children that he does not want to hear anything more. Isaac, satisfied with the result, finally pulls the battered spirit out of his mouth. Now Isaac is even happier, because the eastern castle is located next to the extension where the mana cores are located. East Castle, Joshua's house. There is an explosion inside, blowing out the windows. The servants present within the castle grounds say that it is definitely the Demon King's mana that is to blame, and that it seems that the patriarch has given up. The servants gossip that Sir Howl or his brother will be next in line, as Isaac has been cursed and can no longer be a candidate. The maid asks if the boy is really cursed. Another servant replies that he heard that Isaac has the appearance of a balding old man. The girl objects that according to rumors, he looks like a monster without skin or a skeleton. The girl also adds that Isaac has been in the castle with the Holy Spirit for 10 years. Behind the servants, the estate continues to burn, emitting smoke. Inside the castle, the servants run away screaming, but Asili, on the contrary, goes inside. Before entering the chambers, she exhales tiredly, mentally preparing to enter. Then, having collected herself, she throws open the doors and informs Lord Isaac that she has arrived. Asili asks the little gentleman if he is okay. Isaac looks at her with displeasure. Taking the lollipop out of his mouth, It becomes clear that over the past 10 years, the baby has not grown a bit. Asili sighs sadly, wondering how strong the Demon King's curse is that Isaac is still so small. But Isaac smiles and mentally replies that he is staying a baby on purpose. The reason Isaac chose to stay small is because babies are much better at absorbing power, and there is a level that can only be reached by a child. Asili's conversation awakens the spirit, and the girl asks him if he slept well, calling him by name, Shalak. Shalak does not answer Asili, but only stubbornly intends to continue cleansing the little fiend. The spirit says that he was almost able to finish yesterday, but then turns to the baby and sees that a huge cloud of mana is swirling around him again. Shalak yells at Isaac, asking how there could be more mana, to which the kid only smirks slyly, looking away. The spirit shakes Isaac, asking questions about how much of the Skeleton King Isaac ate, why the mana has not decreased in 10 years, and why there is always more of it after awakening. The kid is silent, smiling contentedly, and mentally answering that for the past 10 years he has been absorbing mana from the cores that have accumulated in the annex every night. And Whisper adds that it was unexpectedly pleasant to learn that there are even more of them under the annex, which Isaac dealt with in 10 years, although the assistant thought that it would take at least 40 years. Shalak complains of headaches from working with Isaac. The kid is happy that he finally finished collecting mana, and although no one taught him, he was able to learn on his own, and now he can cast 6th-tier holy spells. Asili tells Isaac that everything will be fine and that Dad will join in too. The baby is not at all happy about this. Asili adds that the Holy See is going to execute all of the Skeleton King's minions, all 14 familiars, and Isaac is shocked to hear this. The girl, thinking that she is calming the child, says that soon the last mana of the Demon King will be extracted from Isaac and everything will be fine, but the child is against it. He is indignant that he still needs to extract a lot from his familiars and they cannot be killed. Asili then offers the kid to eat a candy in the shape of the Skeleton King's broken skull and rest. But Isaac only turns away, mentally asking to get rid of it. Now Isaac will have to come up with something to solve the problem with the minions. The kid is distracted from his thoughts by a voice coming from the window where Howl praises Shuri. Shuri is walking with her father in the garden, and her father praises the boy for not only skipping the test, but also becoming the youngest priest. Howl proudly tells his son that rumor has it that the princess herself will be present at Shuri's initiation. Shuri modestly tells her father that this is all nonsense because he is his father's son. Gowl beams with happiness and pride for her son, praising him for how smart he has grown up to be and promising that everything will be fine with Shuri. But before he could finish speaking, Howl discovered that his son had already disappeared, and in his place there remained only a light haze of the spell. At the same time, Shuri falls from the ceiling of the room with a wild scream, and lands awkwardly face down on the floor in front of Isaac. The baby calls his name, and Shuri lifts her face, almost crying. Isaac looks at Shuri angrily and threatens him. Shuri steps back in confusion. Isaac scolds Shuri for not being able to stop himself from lying and thinking that he only ran away because he entered the academy, while Shuri is afraid that he saw that crazy man again. The kid tells Shuri that he achieved everything he did only because of his training. Shuri replies that he tried his best too. It's not easy to be dedicated and become the best in class, but Isaac says that he couldn't have done it alone, and Shuri agrees. The kid thinks that he also needs to prepare for initiation, because many spells will only be available after that. Shuri awkwardly looks away. The kid jumps down to the floor, having made his decision, and says that Shuri should help him, but the boy is not thrilled about the prospect. Isaac makes an angry face, and Shuri immediately changes her mood, replying that he will help in any way he can. The kid smiles evilly, saying that he wants everything Shuri has, the prize money from the quiz, the things his father bought him. Isaac wants everything. Shuri is already crying her eyes out, mentally calling Isaac a demon. Shuri massages the baby's shoulders, and Isaac asks his brother what's going on with the killing of 14 familiars. Shuri replies that after the incident in the vault, demons no longer follow orders and seem to expect death, so they are executed. Isaac does not like this outcome. The kid says that since nothing can be done, he will solve everything within a year. Shuri is surprised and does not understand what exactly the kid wants to do. The kid says that he will join the ranks of the priests, and this makes Shuri laugh so much that he can't help himself. Shuri is already laughing openly, asking Isaac how he is going to do this. If not even at the academy, the kid is angry at his brother's reaction. There are sounds of blows, and now Shuri is sitting quietly and humbly with bumps on her head, and the kid asks him what's funny. Shuri tells Isaac that in general, there is a system of recommendations from professors. With them, Isaac could enter the academy. Isaac likes this method. But Shuri continues that in order to receive a recommendation, you need to do something that confirms your character. Shuri carefully adds that Isaac is kind of an asshole, which angers the kid and his assistant. Shuri says that something very important needs to be done. For example, saving a life, and the higher the person saved is in society, the better. But it is not easy to find such a person, and Isaac thinks that there is little time left, only a month. But since the princess will be at the initiation, then it is possible to think of a plan, although Shuri is frightened by such thoughts of the baby. But Isaac is not going to back down, already thinking of a plan, because the princess occupies a very high position in society. At the same time, in front of the training grounds of Joshua's estate, Eli stands in front of the gate and does not let people in. He sternly tells these people that Isaac will not go to the capital. The man and woman persuade the patriarch, saying that this year everything is different. There will be a foundation festival, and all the candidates for sainthood will be there. They must undergo initiation. Eli thinks about the woman's words. For 10 years, while others were showing themselves, there was no news from Isaac. The man says that 10 years ago, Isaac did something incredible in the relic storage, and therefore must go to the capital. The man says that Isaac is rumored to be in the eastern castle, like all the saints once were, and asks for permission to see how the boy has grown up. But the patriarch only sighs. The woman says that as a teacher at the academy, she has dreamed of teaching Lord Isaac all her life. And the initiation coincides with the princess's birthday, so even Dad will be there. The patriarch doesn't like this information very much, and he frowns. The professor continues to explain that Dad will be awarding the title of hero to everyone who is ordained, and Eli frowns even more, pursing his lips and thinking. Obtaining the title of hero increases your strength, which means it will bring benefits. Eli makes a last attempt to refuse, telling the professors that Isaac is too young to be ordained. But the professor counters that talent is more important than age. The professors make a very pitiful, pleading look, and the patriarch sighs, giving in and tells them to do whatever they want. The professors are overjoyed, but Eli immediately smiles slyly and tells them that they must be responsible for their words. Meanwhile, Isaac sits in his room with an important look and sucks on a lollipop while Shuri gives him a massage. Joshua's East Castle is on fire again. A man looks at a burning building. The man's thoughts are that the one he was looking for is here. The fire has gone out, smoke is pouring out, but the man is now thinking that summoning a royal rank spirit and making a contract with it is amazing. Even a dad can only do this for a short time and still drive out the spirit. The black-haired fire spirit is one of those who can control the heavenly barriers, and this spirit was unable to become the spirit king due to its evil nature. A smile of anticipation appears on the man's face at the thought that his father and his family will go crazy if they are given such a spirit. After all, they love collecting perfumes, and they will definitely reward you for such a gift. The man checks in his pocket what he brought with him. What neutralizes divine mana, he is prepared. The man thinks that if he suppresses the baby's divine mana, the Skeleton King's dark mana will go out of control, and in his imagination, the baby should be scared and cry. A man plans to secretly bring out a spirit while chaos reigns around him. After this, Shuri escorts the professors to Isaac's room, and the woman is happy that she will finally be able to see the child. The professors come closer to greet Isaac and are surprised to find that he actually looks exactly the same as he did 10 years ago. Isaac turns to the professors with the cutest expression he can muster and smiles at them as if to say, "Welcome to my recommendations." The professors are stunned by the baby's cuteness. The two professors are ready to go to the academy with Isaac right now, but the man with the beard approaches the crib and mentally calls the child a little fox, charming everyone around him. He picks up the baby with the idea that he will make the Demon King's mana manifest, and Isaac awaits his actions. The man holds the baby to his chest in what looks like a hug, but he is trying to suppress Isaac's divine mana at this moment. Nothing happens, and Isaac, continuing to smile sweetly, winks at the bearded man and looks at him questioningly. The baby babbles, waving his arms, and the man is surprised that nothing happens, although he released enough divine mana to make the demonic one uncontrollable. Shalak appears on the baby's head and asks Isaac, calling him an insufferable brat, what he is doing, advising him to just kill this damn priest, and asks the man why he released so much divine power. The man pays no attention to the words, greedily looking at the spirit of royal rank and thinking that here it is, the chance. Pretending to help the baby, the bearded man takes a hidden handkerchief out of his pocket and begins to rub the baby's face, saying that it looks like the baby is sweating because of the weather. But Isaac smells a strange odor. Shalak suddenly becomes ill. Dark mana covers him, and the professor wonders what happened to the spirit. The dark mana comes out more and more and begins to glow brightly, blinding the professors. Shalak screams in pain and rage. His eyes have turned completely red, and his mana continues to leak out. The male professor says that the spirit is going crazy from the Demon King's mana, to which the woman replies that it is very dangerous. The bearded man still believes that his plan is working, and he wants to drive out the crazy spirit by getting the ball. The man crushed the ball between his fingers, beginning to carry out his plan. He cast a fire-holy spell, pretending to save the others from the dangerous spirit. The man points fire at Shalak. While the spirit is in agony, the man tries to bind it with magical chains. But suddenly the bearded man's spell bounces off the barrier, protecting Shalak, who still has dark mana coming out of him. A rebound spell flies straight back to the one who cast it. And the bearded man, screaming in pain, finds himself in the fire. Isaac smiles contentedly at his actions. Riley and Asili immediately run into the room at the noise, worried about Isaac. Deciding that there are now enough viewers, Isaac begins to cast a spell. Isaac focuses on the dark mana filling the entire room. The baby begins to collect all the mana while the bearded man lies unconscious near his crib. The professors are surprised by the baby's actions. Isaac is pleased with the result, saying it's time to take care of the mana. He snaps his fingers, telling the spirit to stop too. All the dark energy around Shalak immediately dissipates, and Asili and Relai watch this with their heads raised. They can't help but let out a surprised cry as the little boy casts Joshua's Azure Holy spell. While the spirit calmly descends lower, Shalak looks at himself, realizing that everything has stopped. The professors are ready to burst into tears with delight. They are completely shocked that Isaac controlled the Skeleton King's mana and was even able to calm the raging spirit. Relai runs to the baby's crib, saying that this is simply a miracle. Riley is happy that Isaac has finally started talking, and his uncle says how proud he is of the baby. Isaac slaps his face with his palm, not understanding why Riley only noticed this. Isaac is once again being rocked in arms, but he simply endures it with an indifferent face. The bearded man rises from the floor, not understanding what happened. Shalak looms over him and says he'd like to know that too, calling the man a fucking minister of the Golden Church. The man shudders at the spirit's words. Shalak furiously asks who is behind all this. The minister tries to justify himself by saying that he only came to meet Isaac and that the spirit is mistaken. Shalak asks again why he is wrong if the minister came wrapped in fireproof clothing and the man is confused and cannot find an answer. Shalak says that from now on, all fire spirits will terminate their contracts with priests who are connected to the Pope. And with a smile, Shalak adds that he is doing this only because he is furious and asks the servant not to misunderstand him. The man shouts after Shalak, asking him to wait, but the spirit only shrugs. In desperation, the minister asks how the spirits can break their connection with the priests who work under contract with the gods themselves, especially the Pope. Shalak indifferently tells the servant to fuck off, because he has long since severed all ties with the gods and is no longer bound by the rules. Isaac giggles contentedly as he sits in Asili's arms. The spirit tells the minister to get out of sight, and the man is at a loss as to what to do. Shalak then flies up to Isaac, addressing the baby. He says that Isaac saved him with divine power and even dealt with the Demon King's dark mana, and since the dark mana was purified, their contract is over. But Shalak says that he will stay with Isaac in gratitude for saving him, and the kid laughs maliciously, thinking that the spirit is acting like a true holy being, although in fact, he does not owe anything to anyone. When everything has calmed down, the professors are about to return to the sanctuary to report what happened. The woman says that a child of such a level should be ordained no matter what, which makes Isaac unable to hold back a villainous laugh, mentally thanking the professors for the recommendation. We move to the Patriarch's office, where Relai stands in front of his desk. While sorting through the papers, the Patriarch says that the Holy See has approved Isaac's consecration and they want the child to be present at the ceremony. Relai is surprised that everything happened so quickly and asks if the baby was given a recommendation for saving Joshua's people in the academy. The Patriarch replies that it is not for this reason, but for the salvation of a spirit of royal rank, after which no one dared to object, and Relai rejoices at the news. Eli shows his son the results of the tests he gave Isaac, wanting to test his knowledge, because getting initiated is the same as graduating from the academy. On the tests, only the highest scores on all 1,600 questions. Riley is delighted with the baby's excellent result. Riley says that there is nothing to regret now that Isaac can talk and walk, but the patriarch, closing his eyes in disappointment, says that it is a pity, but the baby is behaving badly. Eli says that all that was left was to check Isaac's personality, and most people pass it unless they were completely immoral or criminal. Riley says that he remembers this test. It is carried out under a holy spell that forces one to tell only the truth. The patriarch is just checking Isaac's results on this test. The first question was, "What do you think about the family that gave birth to you and raised you?" And Isaac answered that he will conquer them all. It is all his. Riley rejoices in the spirit of the baby, and the patriarch says that he is surprised. But still, this is expected from one of the Joshua. But Isaac's next answers made Riley's eyes pop out of their sockets. When asked what he would do after initiation, the kid replied that he would bite off the heads of gods, and when asked to tell about his dreams and aspirations as a priest of the sacred empire of Helen, he wrote, "I will get rid of this country." Unable to believe what he saw, Riley silently points his finger at the papers, and the patriarch, closing his eyes, says that only he and Riley saw these results. Riley clutches his head, saying that if Isaac passes another such test after initiation, he will be executed for heresy. The patriarch jumps up, slamming his hands on the table, and says that Riley will be ordained instead of the baby, and for now Isaac cannot be allowed out of the house. First, he must get an education. At the same time, in Isaac's room, Whisper asks his master if he has made a decision, and Isaac answers in the affirmative. We see that Isaac has grown noticeably. He has packed a bundle for the road and with a smile tells his assistant that he is running away, intending to climb out the window. We move to the capital's Roman academy. In the department of holy incantations, boys gossip, telling how they heard about the initiation of a 10-year-old child and do not understand what he did to receive the rank so early. The grown-up Nizer Sepet says that how can a baby who can't even walk be ordained? A classmate asks Nizer what he means by can't walk, and he replies that the child was cursed by the Demon King and hasn't grown a centimeter in the last 10 years. To confirm his words, Nizer turns to Shuri. Nizer continues to sneer, saying that a baby definitely cannot be ordained, which means it will simply be an honorary title. Shuri just sighs, trying to ignore the annoying boy. Nizer continues to tease Shuri by saying that it's great to belong to the house of a saint. Then even an unqualified brat can be ordained, and calls it indecent. Shuri can't take it anymore, jumping up from her seat, mentally cursing the cocky bastard. But then another boy enters the class and asks if Nizer Sepet thinks the Holy See is just a joke. A grown-up Kaina adds that, among other things, it was Nizer's father who accepted Isaac's recommendation, and Nizer is angered by these words. Condescendingly, Kaina tells Nizer that he is an idiot for insulting his own father. Nizer tells Kina to shut up and asks what he's doing at the academy if he's not even a student, and Kina replies that he was invited. Kina adds that he will be a mentor and teacher of holy spells, and this shocks the boys. Kina then, without turning around, turns to Shuri, telling him that he is also bothering him, and Shuri doesn't understand why. Turning her head with a smile, Kina says that there is no way that damned Isaac can become a priest, and Joshua's house will only be okay until Shuri becomes the patriarch. Condescendingly, Kina invites Shuri to come to him if his family falls into decline. Kina promises the young man to find a place for him in his father's house. This statement infuriates Shuri, but he tries to restrain himself because now is not the time for fights. Walking past Kina, Shuri proudly says that he doesn't need his help and nudges the boy with her shoulder. A gloomy atmosphere hung in the classroom, but Kina continued to smile. And Shuri left the room in annoyance, advising Kina to worry about herself. We move to the academy dormitory. Shuri sits on her bed, clutching her head and scolding Nizer and Kina, calling them rats. Shuri is also angry because his family will not come to his initiation since Isaac ran away from home. Shuri wonders out loud why now, calling Isaac an asshole and wishing he would go bald just like the Skeleton King. Suddenly, a portal appears from the suitcase and a hand sticks out. As Isaac climbs out halfway, he glares at Shuri, asking what he just said. Shuri is startled by the surprise. Shuri screams in fear, surprised by Isaac's appearance from the suitcase. Shuri asks how Isaac got here in the first place, and the kid replies that he wanted to take orders. But the patriarch and his uncle tried to stop him, so he ran away. Isaac takes his rattle out of his clothes. The kid threatens his brother with this rattle, and Shuri, frightened, asks what happened again, but Isaac calls the boy weak. With his eyes flashing with fury and waving his toy, Isaac asks if his brother is going to accept his dad's offer. Shuri tries to say no, but is immediately hit in the stomach with a rattle. Isaac punches Shuri and screams that these bastard dads dare to disrespect the name Joshua. The boy only tries to cover himself with his hands. The baby angrily screams that Joshua belongs to him, and only he can insult them and destroy everything. Isaac victoriously steps on Shuri's head and tells his brother to remember this. But Shuri only cries, not understanding what this child is saying. Isaac also adds that he will burn down Joshua's house, to which Shuri begins to pray to the gods and ask them to rid him of this little bastard. Isaac jumps off Shuri's bed and asks him not to be a child and to walk her home. Shuri asks in fear where he is going. Isaac, flexing his fists, replies with an evil smile that he is going to deal with those who messed with Shuri. There are many students in the academy's cafeteria. They are having lunch and chatting. The girl with red hair turns to the door and asks who brought the baby, and her classmate only notices his beautiful hair color. Isaac walks around the dining room with a malicious grin, clutching his rattle tightly and wondering who dared mess with Joshua. The kid noticed a red-haired girl. Isaac looks at her and says that he remembers her from the vault 10 years ago. Calling her suspicious, Shuri rushes behind, trying to stop her brother. Shuri panics and tries to stop her brother because if he creates problems, the Inquisition might come. Seeing who Isaac has targeted, Shuri mentally says that it is Nizer's sister, Naki Sepet. Shuri suddenly rushes forward, happy that he caught the baby, but he turns out to be faster and manages to jump away. Isaac lands right in front of Nucky and addresses her, completely disrespectfully. The kid pokes the girl with a rattle and asks if she got to Shuri. Naki sits completely calm, showing no fear. She replies with a serious face that she never bothered Shuri Joshua and that it was her brother Nizer who did it. Ignoring her words, Isaac happily says that it's good that she admits it. But Nucky corrects him again. Whisper looks at the girl suspiciously and tells the owner that he feels a familiar energy from her. Isaac agrees with the assistant. Naki looks calmly at Isaac, and light energy swirls around her. Isaac recognizes this power as the energy of one of the 5 main gods. Nucky points at the kid and says that he must be the Isaac from the rumors. The kid is a little confused. Naki looks at the baby with curiosity, saying that one of them is a cursed baby, and the second is a child from Dad's family, and that the Azura won't be able to achieve anything this year either. Naki sneers that it won't be long before Joshua is wiped off the face of the earth by the 5 faiths. Isaac looks at her and thinks what a rude woman she is, probably from a house that serves the 5 gods. Shuri whispers to Isaac that they can't be at odds with the Crimson House and asks her brother to just go home. But Isaac shuts her up by saying that he won't be going back because he's going to be ordained. Nucky jumps to his feet and tells Isaac that he will never be ordained. Nizer promised to file a protest with the Pope and cancel the ordination, because you can't ordain an untested child. Shuri stands gloomy, clutching her head. Shuri gets angry at Nizer, calling him names as much as she can. Naki mockingly remarks that judging by Isaac's behavior, his ordination will be canceled anyway. Even before Nazer's protest, a man in a red robe approaches the girl from behind. The man asks Naki if they should call an inquisitor just in case, which greatly frightens Shuri because he knows that 70% of the inquisitors are from the Crimson House. Shuri suddenly grabs her brother in her arms and wants to carry him away. But he doesn't have time. A scream is heard in the dining room and the attention of everyone present shifts. A huge dark wolf appeared in the room and began to growl. The students began to run away screaming, frightened by the monster. Shuri's mouth dropped open in shock, and Isaac was delighted to see his insurance in the beast. The man in the red cloak tells Naki that it is dangerous here. Perhaps a monster has escaped from the training halls and covers the girl with his body. GL immediately gets hit in the face first and flies to the side. The monster's next target was Naki, while her protector lay on the floor to the side. When the beast's paw is already very close to the girl's face, she barely has time to get scared. But Isaac's rattle suddenly flies into the beast's side, knocking the monster off course. Isaac looks at the defeated wolf and mentally clicks his tongue that he is late, although Isaac called him for a long time. The beast rises after the blow and roars again. Naki attracts the monster's attention by casting a holy spell, which Isaac does not like. Before Naki can do anything, Isaac summons his magic and orders the wolf to leave. The wolf freezes in confusion, not understanding what is happening, and then he runs away whining with tears in his eyes. Whisper makes fun of the owner, who pulled out a peacefully resting monster, beat him up and drove him away, to which Isaac chuckles, answering, "Who has it easy now?" The Inquisition immediately bursts into the hall, asking where the monster is. While the Inquisitors are running around looking for the monster, Nucky awkwardly looks towards Isaac, who seems indifferent to what is happening. One of the Inquisitors asks if Nucky is okay. Shuri freezes from the proximity of the Inquisitor, but Isaac doesn't care. Shuri picks up Isaac and giggles nervously as she prepares to leave. The Inquisitor stops Shuri, saying that they cannot leave the premises until the investigation is completed, which greatly frightens the young man. He thinks that everything is over. With a goofy smile and a nervous laugh, Shuri squeezes out the phrase that they don't know anything, while Isaac hangs on his brother's arm, almost rolling his eyes. But suddenly the Inquisitor is interrupted by Naki, telling him to leave the boys alone. She points to Isaac and loudly declares that this child saved her. Shuri and Isaac are so shocked that their faces simultaneously, but mirrored, depict shock. Isaac's hair even stood on end a little. Stopping the Inquisitor with a hand gesture, Naki approaches the baby, asking his name. Blushing sweetly, the girl awkwardly asks for forgiveness for what she said to her earlier. Trying to hide her awkwardness, Naki corrects herself that she is not really that grateful, so she should not make up unnecessary things, which makes the boys even more irritated. The other students also pay attention to the girl's behavior, starting to whisper about Isaac, which does not make the little boy happy. The girl with blonde hair also looks at Isaac with curiosity. She realizes that this is the same child that her brother spoke of, and the girl is introduced to us as the princess of the sacred empire of Helen, Charlotte Alec Frick Hella. The focus shifts to Joshua's estate, Eli's office. He's talking via magical communication, and the interlocutor persuades Eli to allow Isaac to take the rank, but the patriarch strictly refuses. The interlocutor says that Dad will be furious, but Eli replies that he doesn't care. Isaac will be educated at home until he grows up. The interlocutor says that if you keep the child locked up, he will have big problems in the future. But Eli wearily thinks that Isaac already has problems. The interlocutor changes the subject, telling Eli the news that a blonde kid is walking around the academy, and the patriarch immediately jumps up, realizing that he is talking about Isaac. The patriarch screams, shaking the entire estate, calling Riley to him, and he responds in fear. Riley runs into his father's office but doesn't even have time to ask what's going on before the patriarch tells his son that they are going to the capital immediately. Father says that they must make it before tomorrow, and Riley is very surprised by what is happening. Riley tries to object that even by the shortest route such a journey would take at least a week. But his father interrupts him, informing him that there are 23 hours and 48 minutes left. With a look of determination on his face, Eli says they will run. Academy the next day. Shuri knocks on Isaac's door, asking what he's doing and why he's trying to force his tiny body into a priest's robe, demanding that he come out quickly. Shuri is embarrassed. He says that everyone will laugh anyway, so it's time to go out. Isaac shouts from the room that he is finished, but Shuri is ashamed again and asks his brother to give up and go home. Shuri raises her head, begging Isaac to follow his advice. But what he saw made Shuri's eyes pop out of their sockets. His jaw dropped to the floor, and he was completely speechless. A grinning Isaac came out of the room.